So yeah, it's just a complete and utter waste of time. I cannot believe that people still support this stupid, hollow sentiment. You can trace this back to the last second of George Floyd's breathing. Okay, oh, you're, oh God, it's you. I know you are, you're a retard. Using the R word is sad and disappointing. Well, stop watching then, you retard.
And then on top of that, what is their job? Is to be able to fucking shoot people if they want to and get away with it.
Yeah, what fucking countries we talking about? Timbuktu.
No. You're literally. Oh my God, you're doing Ben Shapiro.
You're fired. And if you don't do your goddamn job, you're all gonna get fired.
Well, don't listen. I know there's the Aladdin. I'm going to call it the Aladdin argument. I think that's actually an actual Justice Warrior thing. There's the Aladdin argument that people make, which is this concept that the people that shoplift or engage in petty theft are like Aladdin, stealing bread because they're hungry and then giving it to a child. When, like, the reality is very far removed from that. You've got a bunch of undesirables loading a shopping cart full of detergent to sell on the black market for profit. Oh, but that money is eventually going to feed kids. Yeah, you could steal money out of a mother's purse and use that to feed your kids. Does that make that okay? Do you know what I mean? Oh, but the businesses can take it. Yeah, to a degree, but not when it's rampant and uncontrolled. No, of course they can't. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's find this video about it. I think there's a real lack of understanding of, like, professional shoplifting, right? Thank you. Is this goes into it here, yeah? So there's different kinds of thieves. This is recognized in loss prevention as well. Like, if you know anything about loss prevention, you know that there's, like, discussions and stuff of how to manage these different types of thieves, right? And you do have, like, your occasional desperate person that is just stealing the odd bit to survive. But oftentimes what you see are people that are stealing to, you know, as a job, essentially. That's their job, is to steal things, is to shoplift. Professional shoplifting, yes, this is a thing that exists. Traditionally, professional shoplifters would walk in a suit, and they would act with, you know, they would kind of act like they would get into the crowd. I used to work in retail, and I remember there would be people that would come in the store. They'd wear a suit, they'd have a bag lined with foil, creating like a sort of Faraday cage, I think it's called. And then they would put, like, ticketed items, you know, items with security tags on, into the bag, the most expensive stuff they could get their hands on, and just walk out. And because they looked, you know, they're in a suit, yeah, the full bags, yeah. Because they're in a suit and they looked kind of, you know, they didn't look particularly suspicious, they often would just get out with, like, you know, potentially thousands of pounds worth of stock, because they just fit into the crowd. You didn't notice them. But now in America, you've got this, especially with some of these, I mean, I need to look into it more myself, but apparently there's some places where they've changed the rules where theft under a certain amount doesn't bring about the same, like, level of punishment. And so you get people that just rampage through a store, grab a bunch of stuff and walk out. And the store owners will often tell the staff, don't pursue it, because it's not because they don't want to be stolen. It's not because they want to be stolen from. And it's not because they can permit endless shoplifting from their premises. It's because they don't want their staff to get hurt. It's not that they're saying, oh yeah, we'll steal from us as much as you want because it doesn't matter. They just don't want a fucking staff to get shot or stabbed in the course of trying to stop a shoplifter. You know, in that instance, it's better to let the shoplifter go than end up with a fucking dead member of staff, which is going to be, you know, worse for the company on a number of occasions. But obviously a given store can only account for so much shrinkage, you know, part of which is loss via theft. They can only account for so much of that before it upsets the kind of economic balance of that store, which eventually would lead to the store closing down. But yeah, there's lots of really ridiculous conversations, and it's honestly, you know, shocking how we've gone from what I consider a kind of more reasonable position, which is like, look, if someone is starving and the only choice is to steal a loaf of bread or die, like, yeah, I'm not going to make a big deal. I'll turn a blind eye to that. But that's not what we're seeing now. You know, some of this rampant shoplifting is organized criminals that are stealing to sell on the black market for profit, rather than get a normal job, they'll just be a shoplifter professionally, you know? Anyway, it's a very frustrating conversation. Apparently Hasan and Cenk got into it. I don't think anyone does in my chat. My chat is very racist and bigoted now, so I don't think anyone would. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't mind a bit of intellectual diversity, but people get shouted down, I think, if they say shoplifting's based. I spoke to Smugbug when he was still knocking about it. He used to be a loss prevention officer, he says. And he reckons that loss prevention officers have got... shoplifting's fine and loss prevention is just for shareholders. But loss prevention officers or security guards are obviously employed because there's some impact they have to reduce theft. Otherwise, why the fuck would a business pay $30,000 a year or whatever it is for that staff member? Anyway, I don't know much about this. I've just gone a diatribe about shoplifting. I don't even know if it will be relevant. Apparently, Hasan and Cenk spoke about crime. Let's see what they say.
What were we going to talk? Oh, defund the police. Okay, issue with messaging overall. Another great issue because you and I have duked it out on our famous Thanksgiving specials that we do, where you come here and we argue about issues that we have disagreements on, genuine disagreements on. One of them is crime, right? Not to say that like I like crime and I think crime is awesome. I jokingly do say that from time to time, but ultimately nobody fucking wants crime. We might have a disagreement on how to solve that problem, right? Now,
by the way, from the off, that's wrong. That is completely and totally not true. Mate, I don't know, like, of course some people want crime. The people that commit crime want crime to happen. First of all, because they do it and they like it and they make money off of it. But secondly, and they want to escape consequence for that. But secondly, some lefties want crime to happen because it's part of their fucking weirdo accelerationist perspective of bringing about the end of capitalism or whatever fucking bullshit they, you know, purport that is going to be brought about via crime. Do you know what the funny thing about this is as well, right? Obviously, there's different concepts of this and whatnot, but there's some logic that says, or some argument that says, that if there was some revolution, right, that happened, these petty criminals that are going about, you know, stealing fucking detergent for money would probably end up being like fucking paid by capitalists to come and shoot revolutionaries. Because, you know, they just want a quick buck, don't they? Now listen here, there's some guy in a top hat with a cigar dishing out fucking $100 bills to get the local shoplifters to go and execute revolutionaries. Anyway, let's watch this and see what's what.
Brought up defund the police.
The lumpen proletariat.
I would like to hear your position on that, and before I, get into my monologue.
Okay, so first of all, it's the world's worst framing, and framing matters because it gets into people's heads and leaves the impression of who you are as a movement. Mm-hmm. And whenever I talk to people who are in favor of defunding the police, the very first thing they usually say is, no, I don't really mean defund the police. Then why did you call it that?
So
don't call it that at all.
What would you message it as?
So look, it depends on what you're trying to do. So for example, and I believe in, as I think you, but we do have real substantive disagreements too, but I believe in criminal justice reform. I believe the cops' training is completely wrong. They're taught only protect yourselves, don't worry about the citizens, etc. Are there racial issues? Of course there are. Are there class issues? Of course they are. So I would want massive reform, and I would want the messaging to be around reform, which the great majority of Americans actually agree with. Again, 2/3 of the country is progressive. They agree with us. Don't drive them away.
By the way,
with bad messaging.
It's not just progressives that would agree with that message. The only people that will like defend the cops in the current conception tend to be like no changes would be your kind of Blue Lives Matter conservative types, right? But there's also people on the right that would also agree with this, because there's lots of like libertarian types that also have got an issue with the police. Some of them go too far into the, you know, ACAB retardation, but there's a group of people there who on the right who would absolutely support, you know, restrictions on certain aspects of the police, you know, and they'd maybe look at it from more of a constitutional perspective of defending civil rights along those lines. But there's definitely like, you know, ways to make pathways that way too. So I think it's kind of wrong to just say, oh, this is just progressives that want this. There's some people on the right that would also be up for this too.
Okay. When people hear defund the police, they hear there's not going to be any cops and they panic. And so
True.
and it's not just white folks that panic. It's not just right-wingers that panic. Ilhan Omar almost lost her seat in a primary because 78% of African Americans in her district did not want to defund the police.
So how about this? Here's my reframing. When this works with a lot of like liberals that I talk to, at least rich and poor. Hey, police, do your fucking job. Is that good?
That's actually really good, and I talk about that all the time.
Okay, listen. Here's the issue, though. Right, with defund the police. As far as messaging goes, and as far as optics goes, you yourself have basically created an argument.
See, this this is the thing with all these fucking online conversations about politics, right? It's always about the optics and making it look good and how does it sound and stuff like that. None of it ever really gets into like the meat and potatoes of what you actually, have to do to make change in the country, which is fine. It is what it is. But this is never going to result in anything beyond just talking about it,
You are not using in this situation. You said the media is all too powerful in manipulating public consciousness, and they can change people's attitudes for the better, even if it's entirely at odds with the material realities and the oppressive constructs built on top of those material realities. If that is the case, then optics issues are simply an issue caused by the media not pushing the message enough.
This is just... It's so far removed from like a person in the street who doesn't want to go about their business and get mugged or robbed or shot or something like that, right? And most people don't. Most people don't get mugged or shot or robbed or whatever. But the idea that you might is very troubling to people for obvious reasons. And, they like the idea of people keeping them safe. And we think the police are the people to do that. But yeah. Optics are very important, but the thing is, right, optics are important and politicians have to consider this, but they've also got a whole bunch of other things to consider alongside optics, which is actually doing stuff and getting things done and changing things and doing politics, right? It's only online people that obsess over optics because that's all we've really got, isn't it? Is the optics of what we're doing and what we're not doing and whatnot.
Is that what you're saying? So if in a future where MSNBC is truly progressive, that they could just be like, no, defund the police is actually fucking super sweet. Let's go forward. Do you think people would be on board with it?
No, because it's mixed. So yes, media pushes the message, but the message itself is also important. So if you had the message of kill all people, that would not work well, even if MSNBC pushed it to ad nauseum, right? And defund the police is such a fundamentally wrong framing.
You think defund the police is a message as aggressive and as wrong as like kill all people? No.
I gave an extreme example, so not all examples are the same, but I think defund the police is almost as bad a message as you could possibly find because it leaves the impression that there will be no police, no safety, no security, and it freaks people the fuck out.
I don't understand how this is still a fucking conversation, right? If someone on the street hears defund the police, right, in their heads, what they're hearing is, we're going to leave you on the streets to be stabbed, raped, murdered, robbed, and there'll be no one there to save you. That is what people fucking hear. And, it's not even like the right need to do anything to suggest that message, though they do that. Just saying it alone is enough for people to think that and feel like that. Even in, like, black communities, this idea of defund the police, I don't believe, was particularly popular either. Defund the police was like this activist terminology that caught on amongst, like, online progressives and spread out to like certain communities of progressives who were in the midst of like, in some cases, very aggressive battles with police after the George Floyd murder and the protests after that, right? And in the time, maybe you could understand why people even thought or felt like that. But long term, it's a complete political non-starter, a complete waste of time. No energy should ever have been expended in actually trying to push for this at a legislative level. And apparently it did actually have negative detrimental impacts on certain, more progressive politicians actually getting elected.
That's a fact, and it's shown in every poll.
Okay. Defund the police means what? Reallocate some of these ballooning police budgets to social safety nets and social programs because that's where crime starts. And that's the best mechanism to combat certain types of crime, at the very least. Okay.
So that's where we get into substance.
So you don't agree with the policy, not just the optics. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah. So Now, the optics, I 100% disagree. When it comes to policy, it's much more nuanced. And by the way, if people don't like nuance, then you're not going to like me at all. Because you're going, oh, no, I want a black and white world. I want everything to be extreme. No, I'm not that guy. So where does the nuance come in? So if you say to me, should we reform the police, reform the training? Obviously, as I said earlier, I say yes, right? Say, let's reallocate some of the funding to social services. We keep the same amount of money, but move some of it from cops.
I don't think
to
they should keep
social
the same amount of money.
Okay, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Some of it to social services because they can handle X.
Do you know
better.
what? I would.
I'm
All
open
these
to-
people. Do these people understand how fucking complex like a city budget is? State budgets, city budgets, fucking. You know, I don't know exactly how it's structured in America. You know, the structure of the budget of the police, where the money goes. Most of it's on fucking wages for starters. I'm asking because that's what we do here, isn't it? We ask questions, even though we know the answer. The idea that these online pundits have got any concept of actually how to manage and you know, deal with the police budget is absurd. Yeah, just get an Excel spreadsheet up, easy peasy. Yeah, I would not ever suggest to know anything about, you know, a budget of that complexity and magnitude, you know? Even like a budget of a relatively small business with, you know, 20 employees would probably be beyond a lot of these lefties to actually look at and analyze, you know? God, it's just such a complex issue. And it's just simplified to defund the police. And when the chat, well, no, they shouldn't keep the same amount of money. Well, what is the money? Where is it going? I remember reading an article about this, and it was from a more liberal or progressive paper after, I can't remember the exact details of it, but it sort of detailed these different departments. And like, it pointed out that in some cases, there's departments where budget is increased, but it's to fund some of these changes that progressives wanted in the first place, you know? So, yeah, it's just a complete and utter waste of time. I cannot believe that people still support this stupid, hollow sentiment, which was originally expressed in response to, you know, outrage about, I mean, it's Floydism. It's Floydism. It's Floydism. It's a fucking another aspect of Floydism, where this idea or concept is caught on because of this sense of like racial injustice that took the nation by storm back in 2020. It is complicated does not work as a slogan. Well, sure, but neither does defund the police, does it? Clearly.
To that, I'm totally open to that. Okay.
So it's a semantics difference. You're saying like keep the same amount of money, but don't defund it.
Okay. First of all, semantic difference is a giant difference, as we just discussed. Optics, framing, etc., makes a huge difference. But when you get into the substance,
it doesn't matter.
There are some things I disagree with.
But you don't.
So
but you don't agree with the policy anyway. You don't agree with the policy.
What's wrong with Floydism? The problem with Floydism is the unjust murder, which I do believe, I'm laughing because it sounds funny, okay? The unjust murder of George Floyd by that police officer guy, right, was bad. We all saw it happen. It was we all saw it was terrible. Obviously, the Conservatives eventually found a new narrative to go with that they used to like try and somewhat justify what had happened, okay? But I don't believe in that, okay? I don't believe in their fantastical tales and whatnot, right? Namaste. But it's used to fuel so much shitty political ideas. And it's largely died down now. And I think a lot of it has kind of gone away. Thank God for that. But some of it still holds on. And you can trace the defund the police, the recent iteration of it. I'm sure there's been other examples on the past. You can trace this back to... You can trace this back to the last second of George Floyd's breathing. I know it sounds insane and bad, okay? I'm trying to... But you can. You literally can. You can trace it all the way back to there because that's where it came from. Okay, let's be careful, okay? I don't want... Also, listen, I'm getting a bit annoyed with the racists in my audience, so I probably shouldn't feed them red meat like that, right? Stop laughing. I can't help laughing at things that I find funny, all right? God, stop trying to control me. I want to laugh at things I find funny. It may sound insincere. I haven't touched fentanyl. Okay. Come on now. Anyway, the point is that George Floyd, what happened to George Floyd was wrong, but it should never have been the signature on the absolute endless amount of identity-based political retardation that we've seen over the past few years. But it was. That's what it was, wasn't it? Anyway, come on, let's listen to this, and then I'll say something else in a minute.
We have like our ballooning police budgets year over year have not actually genuinely improved the lives or genuinely fucking put a dent in like in fixing some of the pervasive problems. You don't agree with that?
No. So look, so here's what happened. So if you'd asked me that a couple of years ago,
before attacking Hasan, remember without him, Twitch would be full of alt-right streamers. Good. I support that. Also, that's probably more down to Twitch's terms of service than Hasan. Yes, bring it on. Open the floodgates. Do people genuinely look at what's happened with platforms over the past? You know, you got Rumble, which is just a hive of absolute insanity. Do you really look at the decisions of big tech platforms and go, yeah, that was all correct and good, actually. Well done. You made the right calls. Now they're off in their own little fucking weirdo echo chambers. Have you been in the average Rumble chat? Jesus Christ, it's madness. If you express anything other than unrepentant bigotry on Rumble, you'll get shouted down as being fucking soy liberal. I'd imagine. I've not been on there, so maybe... I'm going to say that's true, though. I'm going to go on a limb.
I probably would have agreed with that. And then we did, in some places, reallocate some of the money or cut some of the money. And so it's a little bit misleading in places like Washington, D.C., because they took from one budget and moved it to another budget, etc. But the bottom line is they did lose a number of cops in a bunch of cities. Okay, they lost raw number of cops.
Yeah, they died to COVID.
Yeah. Well, look, there was a lot of factors, okay, including cops not doing their job, which I'll get to in a second. But having said that, less cops, but that's not the main problem. But that was one of the contributing problems that led to more crime. Now, other things that
I'll tell you what's so funny for me as a Britbonger about this conversation too, is even Jeremy Corbyn, right? Even Jeremy Corbyn, who is like one of the most left-wing prominent politicians we've had in the past few decades, even he ran on the platform of increasing police numbers, right? So even Labour Party under Corbyn was all about more police, more police, more police. And it was always this battle between the Tories and the Labour Party of who would say they were going to give the most police officers when they were elected, right? But somehow we got infected with this American Floydism, where even in the UK there were calls to defund the police, where historically the problem has been for us, there's not enough money in the police, not enough boots on the ground. Okay, oh, oh God, it's you. I know you are, you're a fucking retard. He did that in the context of being in the UK, not America. Exactly. And that's what I'm explaining, you fucking retard. I'm explaining to you that in the context of the UK, we need more cops on the ground. That's been the fucking, argument that politicians have made to get elected. But somehow we've ended up infected with Floydism, where it's like, oh, actually, we should defund the police in the UK. What? Where are you getting that from? Why do you think we need less police? And I tell you what, walking around London, you just do not see the same amount of bobbies like you used to back when I used to go up there as a kid. Anecdotal, sure. But in terms of like the way that the cities are policed, seems like we've taken a massive nosedive in terms of, I remember walking around my local town, my town I grew up in as a kid, small town. You'd have bobbies everywhere, little hats on and all that.
Agreed with now have created issues. So, for example, no cash bail. Okay.
Oh, okay. The social worker thing. That was a classic, wasn't it? Well, it depends, doesn't it? If someone is a fucking schizo and is a risk to people, yeah, I don't think sending some dude in a polo shirt with a little plastic tag is the right way to go about it. No, because what if they go ballistic? I don't know what the fucking solution is, man. I tell you what, the solution is not going to come from online streamers. Let's put it that way, okay? The solution is not going to come from me and my ilk.
I was totally in favor of no cash bail because I totally get the argument. I was the one putting forward that argument. of, hey, a rich guy and a poor guy does the same crime. Rich guy gets out on bail. Poor guy can't get out on bail. That's totally unfair, right? But what wound up happening is recidivism is a massive part of crime. And so when we did no cash bail, yes, there are a number of guys who are down on their luck, high, whatever. There's a fat number of factors. And when we did no cash bail for them, they just went out and did more crime, more crime, more crime, more crime, more crime. And it became a real significant problem. And so when I look at
a
it,
certain point, I got to cut you off because you've made a couple points.
Oh, I know about this conversation that's been happening, right? This idea that poor people can't afford cash bail. It's unfair on them. But as he said, when you do it without cash bail, you get these fucking petty criminals going out and just keep committing crime. I don't know enough about this to say for certain. I'm inclined to agree with Cenk. Okay? I'm inclined to agree with Cenk. Are you talking about the stabbing thing? God, this has been an absolute buffet of insanity, hasn't it, on the internet? I think I'm going to keep watching this for now because it's not really relevant to this. It is kind of relevant in some ways. It's just happened. But obviously, there's lots of crime that happens that we aren't aware of. It's just this one's particularly big and being publicly discussed. This guy who was like a progressive activist got stabbed in New York. And in the video, he goes up to them. Like the guy is schizoing out, kicking scooters or something. And this guy goes up to him and starts trying to like interact with him. And the guy black guy, goes ballistic and pulls out a knife and starts coming towards him. And then the guy's cream cracker, didn't he? Because he's just instigated this interaction. Now the guy's pulled out a knife and is acting all schizo. He walks backward trying to de-escalate the situation, trips over a bench, and the guy stabs him. And then stabs him in the heart and he dies. And the girl was just kind of stood there, obviously not really knowing what to do. And then the rightoids have found that she's got a picture of her in an ACAB shirt, so kind of mocking her for being against the police. And the guy was a progressive activist, so they're claiming that, he is the victim of his own policies. I've not really seen enough information to come to any hard conclusions about any of that. It's your typical, someone's been killed. Right, let's politicize this immediately and see what's going on. But yeah, everyone's very certain on their conclusions so far. I think at base level, I can understand the idea of, progressive guy, girlfriend doesn't like cops and he got stabbed, like just a very base level, reaction to it is understandable. But I think it's too early to come to any super hard conclusions about exactly what's happened until more info comes out. But that's the boring idea, isn't it? Well, I keep hearing things like that, but I've not been able to find any actual news articles to confirm some of the details that righties have been saying on Twitter. So obviously, if that's true, it's bad, but it's difficult to get on board with certain stuff. They made it political by being an activist. Yeah, but so what? If someone is a progressive activist and they get killed by someone, we immediately assume that they were like, like it's almost like, I don't think that the guy would want people to get stabbed in the street. Right? Okay. Well, you're retarded then, aren't you? You're exactly the same as all the lefties that do exactly the same thing when it happens the other way. I don't know what to tell you. Like, why are you basing your opinion off of fucking Twitter perspectives? Really stupid. Very disappointing, but not surprising from some of the retards that were in my chat.
That I definitely disagree with.
Right. So, but let me just button it up this way.
Okay.
And there's other factors. But my point is, let's be open to how do we get to the right reform so we have justice and they don't beat up black guys for no reason. They don't beat up homeless people for no reason. They don't shoot people for no reason. But at the same time, have a reasonable policy where we protect the citizens.
Okay, great. So I've said this before. I'm not an abolitionist in the sense that, like, I don't believe that there is no necessity for a group of people, whether it's democratically organized or not, that will maintain the presence of law and order, but also solve crimes and do what police are theoretically supposed to do: protect and serve the community, protect and serve the people. In the United States of America, throughout the history of the United States of America, I do not believe that the police force, or whatever it was originally in its original inceptions, whether in the North they were the guys who were supposed to protect commerce in shipyards, or slave catchers in the South, have
Using the R word is sad and disappointing. Well, stop watching then, you fucking retard. Simple. Problem solved. Jesus. You're like one of those soy fucking retards on Twitter. Why is everyone using that word now? Because it didn't work. Your little campaign to control speech didn't fucking work, did it, you retards? Anyway. This is one thing I just... Why are we... this constant grappling with history? Well, do you know the police have got their roots in the slave catching days? I don't know. There's probably, a lot of industries that have got roots in bad places. Would you buy a Hugo Boss suit, for example? I probably would. I'd buy a Hugo Boss thing if I could afford to. But, obviously there's lots of bad roots in things, but it doesn't necessarily speak to what they do today. God, part of me just wants to go full on conservative on this point and just say, well, there's no problems with the police and blacks nowadays. But I'm also kind of annoyed with the racism in my audience, so I need to not feed them red meat. But I think that's a very intentional thing that people do, is to try and link it to like the slave stuff, even though the modern day police, I don't think there's any relevance to highlighting that connection unless you're trying to, score like a cheap political point.
Have ever done that. They've always been protecting and serving the interests of capital. So that's definitely an issue that I have. Having said that, however,
okay, I'll let him finish, I guess. This is this kind of theoretical analysis that's so far removed from the normal person. Do you think a woman, where a police officer happens to walk by and stops a rape, that was going to happen, or something along those lines, do you think that person is there going, well, thanks for doing that, but you do still serve capital, and that's your whole job, isn't it? I'm not throwing out history, I'm throwing out about the invocation of history.
You brought up a couple different points that I disagree with, in terms of defund the police, and also about how less police have caused more crime, and crime has like exploded in cities and whatnot.
A contributing factor.
I do not believe that in the slightest. I do believe that what is known as the blue flu has created a lot of issues that police are supposed to theoretically solve, which they...
What's the blue flu? I've literally never heard of that before. Is this some sort of new concept they've come up with? Oh no, okay. Cops being pussies. The blue flu is a type of strike action undertaken by police officers in which large number simultaneously use sick leave. What's your problem? I thought you wanted to defund the police. Well, they're taking a bit of time off sick, aren't they? There we go. Problem solved.
They never really have done a good job with. If you look at their clearance rates, you will realize that. Okay, but beyond that, it's gotten even worse than it was before, because these are
quitting because people don't love them. Okay, can we be honest about something, please? Can we just be honest about something, right? There's a period of time, a symptom of Floydism, I guess you could call it, right? It wasn't just that people didn't like the police, okay? It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm not really too fond of the police. I think I've got some criticisms and some issues with what they're doing. There was a period of absolute, unrelenting, unrepentant police fucking hatred that occurred, right? And it wasn't specific to cops that were doing bad things. It was this mentality of all cops are bad. And there was this absolutely insane vociferous hatred towards coppers. Was that useful? Was that good? Do you think that was beneficial to anyone? To actually just completely remove any nuance from the situation and just state resolutely all cops are bad and engage in the kind of insane levels of cop hatred that you saw. People literally, you know, a cop would be doing a routine procedure, a routine thing. They get killed by some criminal and people would like celebrate it. In some cases, the copper had been doing like a good thing. They'd been trying to do some sort of good act that we'd all agree is good, like stop a bad thing from happening or something like that. They get killed and everyone fucking celebrates. What? Why? Why? What's the point of this? Absolutely insane. Or, yeah, I mean, in my country, it was really fucking annoying because people were acting like the UK police were like black people fucking death squads wandering the streets looking for the nearest black person to wipe out. God, the levels of insanity it got to was wild.
Are the most selfish, the most lazy, the most entitled, gigantically, insanely violent, uneducated paramilitary group that you could have ever fucking put together, and all of their ineptitude and criminal negligence is constitutionally protected. They have no right to they have no duty to actually have to protect you. They can shoot you if they perceive you to be a threat when you're running away. All of these things have been protected by the Supreme Court. The real reason is because police are supposed to be a violent brigade that will defend and protect the interests of capital.
I mean, was I not literally just saying about this? Was I literally just not fucking saying this exact thing and he goes and says all the shit? I don't know, man. It's just so obvious that this kind of rhetoric just does not help at all. It helps if your goal is to just radicalize a bunch of retards on the internet to support you and your unhinged ideas about how society does and doesn't work and how it should operate, and get them to give you a bunch of money. It works pretty well for that, I guess. But beyond that, it doesn't really help anyone, does it? Just to make out the police are literally a violent squad of destructive paramilitary society rapists. Like, what the fuck? Oh my God. Insane. Absolutely insane rhetoric from Hasan here.
When push comes to shove. That is the reason why they are the way that they are. Okay? The idea that their funding is fine and that their numbers are diminishing and that's what actually is like a real gigantic problem for crime is, in my opinion, a historical and completely incorrect. They have gotten more money year over year, including in the defund the police years, where not a single fucking precinct, with I believe one exception, it might have been Minneapolis, if I'm not mistaken, okay? Not a single fucking precinct actually had diminished resources or diminished funds. As a matter of fact, they got more money, and they got the most amount of money in comparison to all of the other amenities that the local governments are supposed to offer. The Los Angeles Police Department gets costs taxpayers $8 million a day to operate. Okay, and what is that operation?
That is the sign of the biggest retardation going when people talk about issues like this, is to just throw out a number and act like it's insane. $8 million a day? What, LAPD? LAPD has got massive fucking crime problems, is an enormous sprawling area. Like, yeah, of course they fucking got a massive budget because they got a massive job to do. Without detailing what the actual budget pays for, you haven't got a fucking chance of understanding what the, what the ins and outs of it are. And exactly that as well, right? $8 million. Is that really like that big a number when you consider LAPD is what? One of the, I mean, I don't know what the stats are on the city, but my guess would be that it's got a lot of problems with crime and other issues that, that money is looking to try and help solve. I mean, I went there and I got accosted a couple of times, didn't I? I remember seeing after I did that, it was like there was like police initiative, which was like just walk away. They were saying just walk away from those kind of encounters. I guess because you can't be sure if they're gonna fuck you up or not. And also, LA's got like gang problems as well, right? I presume lots of gang issues there for no particular reason.
Fucking not doing shit when a robbery is happening in front of them. Okay. Now, if you ask them, they'll say it's because you don't want me to be violent. You made me this way. You don't want me to stop the crime, so I'm not doing it. They're like petulant little fucking children, okay, who refuse to do the fucking job that they are supposed to do. They have the best fucking workplace protections. They basically live in like a social democracy. They're the only individuals in society that have like fat pension programs and permanent job security. And then on top of that, what is their job? Is to be able to fucking shoot people if they want to and get away with it. It's fucking insane.
Oh my god! Yes, that is the police's job. They just shoot people and get away with it. Do you know what people like this need to do? Is they actually need to go and watch like your more routine police interactions. You know, you get those like you get like everyone talks about when some juicy body cam comes out, right? And it's like some dude getting unfairly beat or some shit. And you're like, oh my God, that looks bad, doesn't it? They should go and watch like routine police incidents and just see the absolute insanity that police officers sometimes have to put up with, on a day-to-day basis. I know, yeah, just talking to a cop or someone that's been a cop previously. Get counterpoints in there to talk to him about it, you know? Yeah, go and do a ride-along. Do a fucking ride. That would be content as well. Imagine Hasan doing a ride-along, trying to say all this to actual coppers. That would be hilarious. Yes, policing society is a thankless task. The police have got issues, correct. But policing society, particularly ones that are violent, riddled with gangs and crime, etc., is a thankless task. Those that can be true. You realise that, don't you? What do people think police officers do all day? Do they think they literally just go in and put their fucking vests on, get their fucking pistols in their holsters or whatever and go, right, time to go hunt some blacks. Let's go hunt some blacks, shall we? Like, dude, you got no fucking clue what the day-to-day life of a police officer is like. Let's go down the donut store and plan what black ghettos we're going to go shoot up today. How about that? Oh, yeah, I saw you got 10 blacks yesterday. Yeah, I'm going to beat it today. I'm going to get to 11. Based, yeah, I'm going to beat you as well. We're going to get to 12. Yeah, we're just going to go shoot as many black people as we possibly can. That's the plan today, officers. Let's get out there.
Okay?
So
it's nuts. The entire structure is fundamentally broken, okay? And and that is by design. They are supposed to be that way. They are supposed to operate that way because when push comes to shove, when people are rioting in the streets or whatever, okay, when the inherent contradictions become ever present and people start to react to that in either direction, okay, whether it's like reactionary activity, 3%ers and the like, or whether it's like
I love the inherent contradiction thing is being spoken about, which is like socialist theory type stuff. When the most recent and prevalent like progressive riots and civil disturbance that you saw was because of Floydism. Oh my God! Okay, I need to say something progressive soon, or people are going to think I'm a righty. I'm a righty again. Hypothetical. Okay. I do not think the police should gun people down in the streets. No. The police should use proportionate force to deal with the issue at hand. Like, that's reasonable. And you need someone in society that's got overarching force, so that the baddies that are out there aren't able to overstep that. If someone is going to stab me or shoot me, assuming I don't have a gun because I'm not allowed one, or if someone's going to rob me or do some ill harm on me, you want someone that's going to be able to come and fuck them in the ass, intellectually speaking. Well, shoot them. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Oh.
People fucking throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever because they're losing their minds at the reality that they have no economic prospects, and it feels like their lives are getting progressively shittier. Okay, they will sit there and they will put their fucking police force in rich neighborhoods and protect those people and ensure that storefronts are not damaged.
So there's actually a lot I agree with you on. The main
Wait, is that a bad thing? Like, yeah, if there's like massive civil riots and shit like that, you need the shops to be protected so the next day people can go about their day-to-day business. Well, I tell you what, they don't like it when the coppers do it. They don't like it when Carl Rittenhouse does it, do they? Jesus. It feels like to me that what these people want is just the ability to cause absolute chaos and destruction with no mitigating factor at all. They just want to be able to go torch stores and burn it all down. Oh, I'm on Rittenhouse's side.
The difference is that I think all those factors contribute, whereas you think the biggest factor is the cops basically not doing their job / their job was always misdirected in the first place, right? So I don't disagree with you on that at all. I just think that that's a big part of the equation, but not the whole equation. So, and I'll give you a couple of examples from LA to give you a sense of what I think are the issues. So in terms of the funding or the number of cops, I think that is a factor. You don't think it's a factor, but I actually think it's a relatively small factor.
If that was the case, then policing would have gotten better year over year as their funds grew, right?
And
that's not necessarily true, because if crime increases at a rate that exceeds the extra investment the police get, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's going to get worse, isn't it? Yeah, if population increases and the police budget doesn't increase at a level that allows adequate policing of that increased population, then yeah, you might see, it's not guaranteed that that's going to be the case. Especially if that population is the criminal population increasing or something like that. Pensions, yeah, that comes into it. Like I say, all of these conversations are really stupid because you're not taking into account what is the actual dollar amount on each expenditure. And also, even if you were to get the full budget and what it looks like as the police, could you even interpret that data and what that information means? Yes, of course, it is Hasan we're talking about. Yeah, inflation. Yeah, funnily enough, not thinking about inflation and how inflation can have a, real term, can lead to real, even with increased budgets, increased salaries, inflation can mean that you actually get a pay cut because it's not keeping up with inflation. Remember that fucking graph that all the lefties talk about, right? Where it's like, wage stagnation. They have to fucking throw that about, don't they? When it comes to police budgets, they even fucking cross their mind to think that could also be an impact. Anyway.
And so, by the way, though, hold on. Don't make that argument, Huss, because crime statistics got way better throughout the years as police budgets did get larger, right? So that doesn't really help your argument. Now, but I don't think it's that simple either. I don't think it was just the police budgets. No, there was a lot of different things that happened with crime that made crime go lower, including, by the way, lead in the walls and the paints and the cars. So very complicated issue, right?
Yeah, but I'm glad that you at least brought up the lead point, because crime has globally gone down.
Yeah,
in areas where police budgets have not gone up as high as the United States of America.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out that it doesn't help your cause to say that the budgets have gone up and crime has gone down. That did happen. I don't think that's a great correlation either. Don't get me wrong. Okay, now I think and I agree with you that the bigger problem, the cops not doing their job, is in a story that I'm going to tell you. But it's also because of some of the laws that we passed. And so now some very violent crimes are misdemeanors. And they should not be misdemeanors, because misdemeanors get pled down to nothing. Felonies get pled down to misdemeanors. Misdemeanors get pled down to nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay? So no one's talking about...
Okay. And my guess is that is because of backlog in the criminal justice system. You've got overworked judges or whatever that will allow lawyers to bargain down misdemeanors to nothing just so they can get the fucking case out of the system. And then I guess that some of these petty criminals are going to be out on the street again quickly, and then they're going to be committing more petty crime. Is that what's happening? I've not looked into this fucking issue at all. I can understand that something might sound like some sort of propaganda or something like from the lefties, but I do think that from the righties, but I do think there is an issue where crimes are not being adequately dealt with, which leads to this kind of, you know, revolving door situation with these petty criminals. Like there's some stories, and they are stories admittedly, but where people are like out on the street again and they commit, in some cases have committed like 40 crimes on different occasions, haven't been adequately dealt with, and then maybe do something more serious. Do you guys think a shoplifter should die in prison? Yes, eventually. Yeah, absolutely. Death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it? With shoplifting. That's what people don't think about. It's a death by 1,000 cuts thing. Eventually, you do need to put shoplifters in prison to stop them just making a little cut on like the fabric of our society. I think the problem with, you know, America, there's other issues which are more progressive minded that I would have, like this idea that felons are like essentially second class citizens when they come out. You can understand that for maybe more serious crime and more caution being required. But for more petty crimes, presuming they've been through a process of rehabilitation and there's like more support there, that should probably change. I've shoplifted before. I would not recommend it. It's bad. You know, when you're a kid, you like take a candy bar, don't you? You know.
About that. That is a giant part of the problem.
What crimes are you talking about?
Some sexual assaults are misdemeanors. Okay, that's insane. It's totally insane. So a guy in New York subway took a dump and smeared it on a woman's face, and that was a misdemeanor. How is that a misdemeanor? Are you insane?
Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay, is that true? Is that true? Is that actually true? Come on. This is actually great for my debate that I'm doing. About the left going too far. Liberal city, no doubt.
Okay, look. And maybe some mistakes were made there, and they should have made some of those things misdemeanors. And that's exactly my point. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you don't have to go to extremes and say we should only focus on one or the other, right? But now I'll give you an anecdote that is an example of the type of thing that happens. So I have a neighbor who's...
by the way, we're not operating under the principle that like New York, the New York Police Department, or the New York court structure, or New York in general, currently led by a cop mayor, is in any way, shape, or form like engaging in police abolition, right?
Okay, that's the article about it happening. Where's the article about it like not being prosecuted properly? I'm not saying it's not true. I just want to see it with my own eyes.
Or defunding the police.
No. Wait, what was that?
By the way, we're not operating under the principle that like New York, the New York Police Department, or the New York court structure, or New York in general, currently led by a cop mayor, is in any way, shape, or form like engaging in police abolition, right? Or defunding the police.
No.
Okay. I'm guessing, I think the issue in New York, and this is literally pieced together, much like in the movie Limitless, but without taking the pill, from vaguely seeing and hearing about things. I thought this was more linked to this idea that there's certain DAs that take a more progressive stance and approach to criminals and are more flexible when it comes to like actually bringing charges and what they bring and whatnot. New York Mayor Eric Adams faces mounting pressure as subway crime mounts despite a safety initiative. The man arrested and charged was arraigned and promptly rearrested on hate crime charges in a previous incident in the Bronx, and he was released again. In that September case, he allegedly accosted a Jewish man and cursed at him, threatening to kill him, and tried to punch him before chasing him on the street. Screwdriver theft. Why is it that given he is allegedly a repeat offender, none of the charges a broker has faced qualify for him to be held on bail under the state's bail reform laws? Right, okay. Ah, so is this the issue that was mentioned where it's like petty criminals are not being kept in are being released and then are free to perpetuate and commit more crime before the actual hearing is. It was a failment of fair housing sports and failing criminal justice laws that allow someone with a history of violence who poses a clear threat to public safety to just walk out of court, the mayor continued. We can't allow this horrific situation to be the status quo and must make changes to our laws to both prevent these sorts of attacks through intervention and support, and when they happen, to subsequently keep people who are clearly a danger to others off the street. Adams was recently elected because of the crime wave. Well, who was the mayor before? God, some of this is like you need so much knowledge about like New York crime and mayors and shit. It's a bit much, isn't it? MTA chair also criticised the decision, saying it defies common sense it was allowed to go free. The Giuliani was years ago, wasn't he? De Blasio. What was de Blasio's whole gig? I believe the last mayor was Harvey Dent. I'm not a criminal justice expert, but I don't understand how someone who commits this kind of assault, which was violent, horribly victimizing a transit rider, can walk free even when he has 4 other open cases against him, including 2 other transit assaults and a hate crime charge, Lieber said in a statement. I mean, wait, what's the MTA? Is that the Metro Transit Authority or something? The Metro person. I mean, you don't need to be a fucking criminal justice expert, do you? It's pretty fucking simple. If someone smears shit on someone's face, they need to be kept behind bars until they're inevitably, based on the video evidence, found guilty of said crime and locked up for a period of years. I don't know, that person should not be on the street. What? The fact this is, you know, what is the progressive take on this? I don't know if Hasan is even responding to it, but like, what? How could you possibly say that this person being free is correct? Can you shoot them on the spot? If someone tried to smear feces in your face, yes, you could shoot them, and I think that would be totally justified. 100%. Absolutely. If someone's willing to smear shit on your face, who the fuck knows what else they're going to do? Absolutely reasonable to feel in threat of your life in that circumstance. God, it's despicable. I'm going to keep speaking out on a rider's behalf. And when our riders and employees are viciously attacked like this vicious episode that happened a couple of days ago, when someone is using their own excrement to attack a rider, it is so ridiculous. How is this even a fucking conversation? Lock the guy up. This guy should not be walking free on the street. You can have flexibility of like certain aspects. Like if, you know, like this is on video. I know it's not been tried yet. It's innocent until proven guilty. But like, there surely is enough there to say, yeah, this guy's way too much of a risk to allow to run free. We've got to keep him behind bars until we can, you know, sort it out. I don't know. No, actual feces. Literal, a dude walked up to a woman and smeared shit in her face. It's mind-boggling that I've never even heard about this before.
No, but
because it is more expensive to run the NYPD than like multiple countries' military.
yeah, I don't think the budget is the issue in New York. So
yeah, what fucking countries we talking about? Timbuktu, some shitty backwater African country with like 3 soldiers. What the fuck, man? Full of corruption.
Okay.
So let me give you that.
But
anecdote.
you used the poop example to, you know.
No, that example was not about budgeting at all. That example was, if that's a misdemeanor, it gets pled down to nothing. So we have to make sure the serious crimes are felonies.
Okay. By the way, so you and I do agree on
Well,
NYPD
I think
not-
I've only looked at this briefly. It seems like it's not the problem isn't what the crime is. The problem is this bail justice reform thing, which I don't know anything about. New York bail justice reform. Maybe it is. I don't know. What's this? In 2019, New York lawmakers passed legislation that eliminated the use of cash bail for most misdemeanors and some non-violent felony charges. That's fine if it is like literally some, excuse the pun, some little shitty crime. Like if someone's caught with a joint, I don't know what the laws are in New York, but if they're saying marijuana use is not allowed, I don't know, like that's not a problem, is it? But smearing shit on someone's face. How did this happen? What? Because a guy was put in Rutgers Island for allegedly stealing a backpack, which he didn't do, and then he died. Okay, I want you to answer this, Yonko. Do you think what should happen? What should happen to someone who goes up to someone else in the subway and smears shit on their face? What should we do with that person? And they've got other instances of violent crime that's currently working through the legal system. Okay, mental health facility. I mean, sure, I don't necessarily disagree with a more humane treatment for that person than the prison. But in the current system we've got, do you think that they should be in custody or should they be allowed to roam the streets? Give them a platform on Kick. True. Turns out, sure, but in principle, you agree that they should not be on the street, at least in the imminent aftermath of their crime. God, why is it difficult to get answers from people? How much do you think he deserves? I cannot determine, based on the law, what prison time he deserves, okay? It would be a literal shot in the dark. What I do know is there are some circumstances where someone commits a crime, there's going to be a gap between them being accused and charged and the court case, but it's too much of a risk to let them out on the street. And people understand this perfectly when it comes to people like Andrew Tate, don't they? I'm pretty sure you didn't see many progressives crying out against the injustice of Andrew Tate being locked away and then put on house arrest. They seemed very well to understand it there. But some fucking homeless guy smears shit on someone's face and it's, well, how long's he going to be away for? Fuck off, man. Unbelievable. I didn't hear many fucking progressives crying about Andrew Tate's civil rights. Do you know what I mean? When he was locked away for months. But no, Mr. Shitty Poopy homeless guy. Whoa, wait a second. Wait, how long's it going to take? We'll go think about this guy's liberty all of a sudden. Fuck me.
Not being underfunded, but if you ask the NYPD, they are the most underfunded.
Oh, of course, they're always going to say that.
Okay,
look, are you kidding me?
So they're lying. Okay.
So here, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Of course, they're lying. Of course, they are. So it's not. What am I trust? Do I just trust?
I'm actually addressing your perspective. I know it's hard to think of things outside of the concept of your favorite streamer, but you know, maybe you've got an opinion that differs from Hasan. I don't know. Who knows?
Trust cops? No way. So let me explain. So I have a neighbor. We wound up having some deranged person.
Also, that guy was
street.
charged with felonies. Apparently, the poop man.
Okay, so good. I'm happy that he was, but you know, there's
so the question. So the question in that situation though is like,
but originally he was let go.
Why?
And so we have to so. That's an example. There are many, many examples, but let's, you know, if you want to dive into that one and see what went wrong
it's
as to
your
why
anecdote.
He was let go, so that's great. Let's find out why he was let go, because he definitely should not have been let go.
Okay, so you brought up an anecdote.
So that was about cash bail.
So you're
he got out.
Also, sorry, what was this take? I'm sorry to break it to you, right? But Andrew Tate is accused of like human trafficking. I know it's a very serious crime, right? Who's more likely to go and commit another offense? Andrew Tate or the fucking homeless poopy guy? If you say Andrew Tate, you're just completely delusional. Like, I don't like Andrew Tate, and I've spoken out against this bullshit before. But the point is, a homeless dude wandering the street who's already shown he's going to shove shit in someone's face is way more likely to go on to commit a crime than fucking Andrew Tate is in the current format. The problem with Andrew Tate is he's a flight risk to another country. That's the issue there. But in terms of like protecting society, I think Poopy Man is probably the worst the worst person in that instance. He shits 3 times a day. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Right?
Okay. Got it.
So
cash bail was important to talk about as well, which is really, really, really important, especially with the conditions in Rikers as the way that they are. One reason
I'll
why.
get to that. Hold on, can I just tell the story because it informs
but
the rest of the conversation?
I didn't think that I had to fact check you on something, but like, of course, we're gonna have to cut through for a second. You know what I mean?
Okay, so why was he let go? Was it cash bail or a felony misdemeanor issue? Because it was definitely one of them.
I don't know why he was let go.
Okay,
You're the one
It's cash bail. Yeah, Cenk did get that a bit wrong. It was cash bail, but then the question is, how is he being released on the cash bail agreement unless he's only committed a misdemeanor?
brought it up. I did not
11
know.
times.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
Misremembered and it was 12 or 9. Okay, corrected. No big deal. I'm happy to have whatever it was corrected. But there's a million examples of just like that.
Okay, I love this. I checked and Shitman was over a year ago. Why does that matter? Why does it matter when it's a fairly recent example of problems with the criminal justice system? Why does that matter? You got Hasan talking about the fucking slave patrols from fucking hundreds of years ago, but no, don't you dare bring up the time a fucking homeless dude smeared up shit in someone's face. What are you talking about? You're fucking nuts.
The reason why cash bail and all of these kinds of, I guess, supposedly progressive implementations are happening is not because people have...
The reality of it is, right, people should only be held in custody if they are some threat. It really is as simple as that. Analyzing that is complicated. That's the difficult part, right? Obviously, if someone commits like a white-collar crime from their place of work, they're very unlikely to like reoffend in a way that's going to be harmful to society, right? Whereas someone who's gone and smeared shit in someone's face is a fucking massive red flag. This guy needs to be fucking kept off the street.
Back district attorneys that want to undermine the American criminal justice system. It is out of necessity because of how draconian the American criminal justice system is that we simply do not have enough space in our carceral state that currently houses, chains 25% of the entire population's incarcerated population, despite America being only 4% of the world's entire population. We have an overpopulation and overcrowding problem in our prison system, and that problem didn't happen overnight. It did not materialize out of nowhere. It happened with centuries of having the most draconian outlook on crime and punishment.
See, the trouble is, I want to believe what Hasan is saying in terms of like the problems with the prison system, okay? But I don't know anymore. I don't like the amount of progressives fucking, listen, righties, I'm not saying you're fucking any better than this, okay? But the amount of progressives lie about these issues is so frustrating. So I'm inclined to go and look and see myself what the information says. Although I'm a retard, so I don't fucking know one way or another, But there is absolutely, my base understanding off the top of my head is there are problems with prisons and overpopulation and stuff like that. My concern is this idea of like, well, in that case, let Poopy Man roam the streets. I don't know, that doesn't seem to be the best solution. Like, we need to find a solution that doesn't involve letting violent criminals roam the streets doing as they please. Yeah, but that's the thing, though, is like the prison system is bad, and I agree with that. Okay, from everything I've seen, read, and understood about U.S. prisons, they fucking suck. And they are in desperate need of some sort of update. But here's my problem. I don't know if the state is capable of, the state in the broad sense, is the state capable of actually fixing this issue? Do you need some, with the society we live in, do you need some level of private intervention and the problems that can bring, right? How do you make sure that private prisons are up to standard? Because there's problems there too. I don't know. This is such a complex issue that just has got no easy answers. But fundamentally, you cannot have people that are going to commit crime against citizens of a violent, aggressive nature just can't have them on the street. As simple as that. I mean, yeah, obviously people should stop committing crime, but you know, that's like pissing in the wind, isn't it? Some of these people don't want to stop committing crime.
And refusing to analyze the structural issues that cause crime, the poverty cycle, the cycle of poverty and violence. That is why we are now at a situation where our prison population, our prisons are filled to the fucking brim, and the alternative is what? Like building more prisons, I guess, instead of trying to push for a different way of trying to solve the underlying reasons as to why crime and mental disorder manifests in the public. That is my argument.
Yeah. No, so
okay. It's true that there are underlying societal issues that need to be fixed, but the problem is this, right? The pot is already boiling over, okay? The pot is, or it's too late. The pot is boiling over. It's a convection oven, right? The pot is already boiling over. And you can turn the heat down, which is a difficult task in and of itself, but that isn't going to stop the boiling pot because it's already at a certain temperature. I think it says capitalism is voluntary, and then it's like that meme of like, if you don't engage in it, you die. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, this is the problem, isn't it, with all these conversations? Unless you've got some knowledge or expertise in the criminal justice system or something like that. Yeah. Libs patronize blacks. There we go. That's exactly the kind of take I'd expect from my audience.
listen, if you say we imprison way too many people, I 100% agree. So now, but then you've got to break it down. So why did we imprison too many people, 80s, 90s, 2000s, etc.? Because we had insane drug laws. That marijuana possession was a very serious crime, right? And we filled the jails with people
There's one
over
other reason.
marijuana.
There's one other reason.
What's that?
There's a material reason for it. Slavery.
Yeah, I got you. So, and we built private prisons. The private prisons fund the politicians.
No,
All that
no,
is
private
true.
prisons are.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought he was talking about historic slavery. I think what he's talking about is this idea, this narrative that the prison system exists to essentially gather and provide inexpensive labor to businesses, and then I think prisoners are paid at like 50 cents an hour or something like that. Big license plate. Yeah, exactly like the movies. Again, that's an interesting concept. How true that is, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's got any merit, but again, something you probably need to look into. Oh, 50 cents a day, is it? Well, the thing is, I think this is true. Okay. Right? Don't they do call centers with prison labor now? I hope that's not some bullshit I've seen somewhere. Don't they do fucking call centers with prison labor? Is that a thing? Let me look it up. Oh no, looks like it's true. Research in the prison call center industry. It's women's prisons, apparently. Damn, they get it fucking cushy, don't they? Oh. Oh, camera's gone. back. Okay. Well, that looks like it is a thing. How widespread it is, I don't know. I mean, didn't it used to be they used to just crack rocks by the side of the road? That was the whole thing. I think that public service labor for the benefit of the public at large is good. But if there are instances where you've got private businesses taking advantage of cheap prison labor, that's obviously fucked. But yeah, get them picking up some trash. That's fine. Do that. I don't know enough about it really to really say much more, but interesting concept. Legalize slavery again. What race do you want to legalize it for exactly?
Minor, even though they are like objectively one of the most cruel and inhumane things that you could do, that like Europeans look to and go, what the fuck, you guys have that? Like, you guys capitalize and profit off of the existence of fucking prisons? Like, that's nuts. That's a small part of the puzzle, small part of the conversation. So the state prison structure also relies on slavery as a form of punishment.
But Haas, okay, I first of all, I think that the prisons were far too many, and we were imprisoning too many people, and mainly on drug charges. And yes, there are nefarious other reasons that you point out. I point out private prisons. You point out slavery. And yes, slavery is real. They make them work for $1 or less per day, which is ridiculous. I know and fight against all of that.
Cenk said, "Get your money up, not your funny up."
Yeah, I mean,
you say, "Get your money up" to the.
Yeah, how widespread that is. Obviously, I would be against the idea that private businesses can take advantage of cheap prison labor if that's happening. Like, that's pretty easy. You know, prison labor should only ever be used for like state business and improving society that way. It's like, I remember there was a controversy in the UK where businesses, so people would be on like job seekers allowance. Why? Because it's detrimental to the labor market if you can just get a bunch of prisoners to do labor for the cheap. And it creates like bad incentives, I think. I don't know. Is that like, that seems pretty obvious to me. But in the UK, there was a controversy where people were on like government benefits. Like, yes, I'm a lefty, correct. I know it doesn't seem like it sometimes, but there's a lot of craziness out there. No. Okay, it's not slavery. Right, okay, let's get this clear. It's not exactly slavery, but if businesses are able to obtain cheaper labor by using prisoners to do the labor that normal working people could do, that is bad and wrong and shouldn't happen, right? I don't know how widespread that is exactly. And I need to look into it more. But if that is a thing, that shouldn't be a thing. That's a pretty fucking easy, obvious answer. I've just explained why not. I'm not going to explain it again. It's pretty straightforward. It fucks up the labor market, right? It means that businesses are able to get cheap labor that normally they'd have to pay full whack for, right? And it creates, bad incentives within the prison industry. It's like a way of circumventing, the sending labor abroad. I do see what you mean though about I probably need to think about it more to really like solidify my position on it. It just feels wrong. I don't know. I think the labor could easily be used for like state business. I just think there was a situation, I'm trying to explain, in the UK, there was a situation where people were on job seekers allowance, right? Which is a scheme with which you're supposed to be seeking work. But businesses would offer to take these people on that are on job seekers allowance in order to retain their benefits. They'd have to go and work for a business, but the business wouldn't actually pay them or take them on as an employee. It would be like, well, if you want to keep your job seekers allowance as a business that needs workers, go and work for them for a bit. The idea being to like up their skills or something like that, There's just something that doesn't seem right about it. Maybe there are some holes in what I'm thinking. And also, I don't know how widespread it is either. I think that, community service, and so there's probably plenty of stuff to do community service-wise that businesses don't even need to utilize prison labor. They could be busy doing other stuff. But again, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'll admit it's not 100% thought out. There's probably some more angles I need to consider it from. Also, I'm skeptical about Hasan's presentation of it. I don't even know how true it is and how widespread a problem this is. But okay, I'll look into it.
Fucking to the prison system, you know, pay these motherfuckers more.
So okay, but look, but at the end of the day, what is it that we're putting people in prison for? If you say just generically, okay, let's have less people in prison, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, should we let out murderers, rapists? Of course not, right? Mm-hmm. So the question is, what should people go to prison for? So we all agree they should not go to prison for marijuana possession. That's insane, right? But we all agree that they should go to prison for murder and rape and the horrible crimes. So now we might disagree around the edges, but those are important edges, right? And so now when say the prisons are awful, I totally agree. I don't know why we allow for the prisons to be disgusting, right? And how they treat people, the solitary confinement.
I mean, the average existence of a poor person in America is disgusting. Why the fuck would they care about prisoners on top of that?
No, but the average existence of a poor person in America is disgusting. That's just not true, is it? That's a complete fucking fabrication. I feel like people look at like the most wretched, disgusting, terrible person shitting on the side of the street to then later rub it in a woman's face. Well, what do you mean by poor? Okay? Because there's a lot of poor people in America that have got a roof to sleep under, I've got a fucking mobile phone, I've got like food to eat. Like, what do you mean by poor? Because there's obviously a bottom layer of society that is absolutely fucking wretched, homeless, whatever. But even they have got their fucking cards, haven't they? They're going to get their goodies. Oh, here we go. EBT. Thank you. Yes, please. Anyway.
But what we do in the prisons is beyond inhumane. And
of course.
So for like, there's all the jokes like, aha, you're going to go to prison, you're going to get raped. Why is that funny? Why is that a thing that we think is normal? No, rape is not normal. People going to prison and getting raped is not normal. That's insane, right? Mm-hmm. So do we need massive reform of the prisons? Yes. Do we actually need to spend more money to make those prisons bearable? And I don't mean just give it to the guards. I don't mean just give it to the warden. I mean actually make the prisons bearable. And we know...
Wait, hang on a sec. This is actually seems, on a very brief reading, good. Companies being incentivized to take on risky target groups. Why is this the solution, that companies get tax credits for taking on... Well, wait, work release inmate. I'm assuming that's someone who's allowed to go out and work. Oh no, sorry, I got it wrong. The inmates make about 90 cents to $4 a day. Oh, I thought this was people that had left prison that were given a job, but that's not what it is. It is the thing we're talking about. McDonald's use inmates to produce frozen foods. Inmates process beef for patties. They may also process bread, milk, and chicken products. Same for Wendy's. Yeah, I got it mixed up. I thought they meant people that were, like, it was like, oh, if you take on someone that's just been released from prison, we'll give you money to do that, which seems good. The problem I've got, though, is this is Malta Justice Initiative. Like, these activist sites cannot be trusted either. I don't know who to trust anymore. I'm going to go and watch a video of a racist right-winger and see what they've got to say about it all.
Know that creates less crime. Look at Norway. Recidivism is much lower in Norway, and they have much more humane prisons. So reasonable people agree, progressives agree, the great majority of the country agrees, but yet our goddamn politicians won't do it. So those are great places to start. Okay. When you get to the issue of cash bail, Haas, I was in favor of it, but now it clearly shows that there's a problem with recidivism. So can we agree, hey, you get no cash bail on the first one.
Can I say something?
But on the second one, if you do another crime,
You wanna do
then you need cash to get out of. Sorry, then you need bail because you are incorrigible. You're committing more and more crimes, and I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you brutalize the citizens because it's not fair. It's not just. We have to talk about the things that are real, that are in the middle.
Hold on. This is important because let's walk through some stuff here. Because last time you were here, you brought up some talking points that were just I was fundamentally at odds with, and this is another issue of disagreement, a point of contention. Okay. So as far as cash bail goes, okay, the walk me through what you think happens in that structure. Like, do you think that someone goes up?
Yes, it is. That seems like a very good compromise. Where presuming it's not like a very extremely violent crime, like rape or murder or something like that. If someone commits some sort of lesser crime as a first instance, okay, there we go. There's no cash release bails, then whatever, we let you go for that instance. But then if they're arrested a second time, yeah, absolutely. Then in that instance, they should have a bail thing put on them. I don't know. That seems good. No, anyone, any issues with that? I don't know. Is it racist? Is it? Okay. We're not doing race memes today, okay? I'm annoyed with the racists in my chat, so we're gonna hold back on those for now.
In front of a judge, and they're like a habitual reoffender, and the judge just goes, "Oh, there's no cash bail, so you're released." Do you think that's what happens?
Unfortunately, a great amount of times that is what happens. Yes.
Okay. No, it's not a great amount of times when that happens. It does certainly happen, though. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but this is, in many respects, the classic Michael Dukakis moment where crime is a hot button issue and it invokes a lot of passion out of people. So anecdotes work really well in comparison to actual empirical evidence. The problem with cash bail is not that like people just keep stealing cars. You can give me 1,000 examples overall of being like, this guy's a carjacker and he got released immediately and he jacked another car, right? Ultimately, the data does not show that these people are becoming repeat offenders. And what you are describing is an issue within the criminal justice system with a singular judge, or maybe some judges that fuck up every now and then. Because
well, the thing is, it's not incorrect to say that like one anecdote of something happening does not mean that thing is happening en masse. However, I do not trust Hasan's quick search and interpretation of whatever the fuck this is. So, it's one of those situations where I agree in principle that just because someone says something happened doesn't mean it happens broadly. But I do not trust Hasan's analysis of this data. So I don't know if anyone's got a link to this or what it says or what it is. Our findings suggest that the effect of bail reform on crime rate increases is negligible. In 2019, New York State passed bail reform legislation that limited the use of money bail and expanded pretrial release. The bail reform law took effect on January 1st, 2020. We evaluated the effect of this law on crime rates in New York State. Interrupted time series analysis were used to examine whether bail reform was significantly associated with a crime increase. When a significant association was detected, we examined whether this relationship was causal. The causal relationship was tested using synthetic control methods. Fucking hell, man. You would need to know quite a bit about all this shit to actually analyze the results of this. Because the thing is this study is saying something, but without knowing like the methodology and what happened. Especially if you're only looking at one piece of information. This looks like one piece of research, I guess. It's, it's not the best thing to come to a firm conclusion off of this. we found that the rates of murder, larceny, and motor vehicle theft increased after the bail reform. But then we employed SSM, since they employed control methods, to create a comparison group to control for potential confounders like the pandemic. By comparing New York State with its synthetic control, see, the methodology here, I'm an idiot. I'm a retard, okay? I'm a fucking moron. Do not listen to me for 1 second about any of this stuff, okay? My interpretation of this, though, is that they created, because there's not an alternative version New York you can compare it to, so they created one to compare it to. They created a theoretical New York to compare it to. Right? Am I understanding it correctly? Is that what a synthetic control method is? You don't have an actual like-for-like control method like you do with medicine. So you create a hypothetical one to compare it to. Thank you for the bits, F-bombs.
The idea that they were able to isolate a control group in this is nonsense. This seems to only tell correlation.
By comparing New York State with its synthetic control, we found the increases in the murder rate, larceny rate, and motor vehicle theft rate were not statistically significant. Our findings suggest that the effect of bail reform on crime rates increase is negligible. So, okay. I don't know anything about this fucking study. Using it to come to a firm conclusion about this, though, seems retarded for a few key reasons. Okay? Literally just reading this, like I am with you now. When a significant... Okay. We found that rates of murder, larceny, and motor vehicle theft increased after bail reform. So they found that it increased, but they had some synthetic control method that they used, which found that it was negligible. The problem then is you're going to have to, you would have to dig in and see what this control method is to see whether or not it's reasonable, to see if the conclusion they reach is reasonable. Right? Tell me everything I'm wrong on this. I don't know anything about this fucking study or any of this shit, but it seems pretty obvious to me that there's a big problem with this in terms of the methodology that they've used to come to this conclusion. And I don't think that you can hang your entire argument on this one study, considering that they're using a potentially dubious method with which to create a control group. And it seems like that argument is, with COVID increasing, we then employed this SCM to create a comparison group to control for potential confounders like the pandemic. So that's one example they're using. So they're suggesting the pandemic could also be a reason that crime rates have increased. But does that necessarily follow? Like, what were New York's lockdown guidelines? They were pretty stringent, weren't they? Could it not be that the pandemic possibly had a improved impact on crime rates? I don't know the answer to any of this. My problem is in reaching such a firm conclusion just off the back of this, which is what he seems to be doing. Yeah, anyway, this seems a bit retarded to hang your hat on this when there's a big fucking hole potentially in this study. Again, I'm not a sociologist, but you probably need to look at much more information and studies which have different methodologies to come to their conclusions, I'd say.
Is a habitual reoffender. The job of the judge that you are bringing up is to say, no, dog, you're a poop guy. You're the guy. I'm sorry. You've smeared too much poop. Like, this is your second time doing this.
So anyway, the conclusion that you would probably want to draw from this more so than this is cash bail did increase rates of murder, larceny, and motor vehicle theft, However, it could be that that's because of other factors like the pandemic. That to me is like a more reasonable conclusion that you could come to off the back of this. But I don't think it completely excludes the idea that removing the cash bail thing like had a negligible impact. I don't know. That's my layman's retard interpretation of all this. Okay, so take of that what you will. But I feel that's like a more reasonable way of looking at this. And you could maybe argue and look at the other. Could pick apart the other things that have happened that maybe contributed to increases in crime rates. Yeah.
Not offering you bail, because cash bail does not mean that judges have no power to offer. Judges have no power to stop you from, entering a carceral facility at any given moment.
If you committed a murder, you're not going to get bail anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is.
But Haas, then do you agree with me that if you do it a second time, that you need to pay bail?
I don't think that legislating that is the smart decision, because.
Yes.
Well, if you
go ahead.
Well, then
why don't you think it's
then
smart?
the 3 strikes law would be a smart idea.
Okay, no, 3 strikes is you lose your entire life.
Yeah,
you lose.
Yeah,
etc. And so, no, there's a difference. There was a guy in Louisiana that was serving a life sentence for stealing a pair of hedge clippers, right?
Okay,
but that's a different issue.
The principle
than,
behind
I'm letting you out to do another crime and another crime and another crime.
The principle,
I'm asking you, so would you? Is there? If it's not 2, is it 3? Is it 4?
What you're describing is literally codifying that in that way is quite literally running into the same exact problem that feeds into the carceral state. Whereas, the problem there is judges should have discretion, okay? And they should apply that discretion appropriately, rather than saying they are no longer able to apply discretion whatsoever because the law does not permit you. Because
I'm perfectly comfortable saying if someone does, especially if you go to 3 crimes, they got let out with no bail. No, sorry, brother.
That's quite literally the principle.
The law,
you're describing the principle behind the 3 strikes law.
Except for the fact that one is about bail, and you're going to get an actual court date where you will receive justice and you will receive a trial,
which of course,
etc. The other one is we take your liberty away for the rest of your life.
Which of course brings us back.
Difference.
Which of course brings us back to the major reason as to why people are just kind of letting people go.
Cash bail disproportionately fucks over the poor and keeps them poor, but I'm not about to make the claim that it causes crime. That's the problem, though, isn't it? What group of people are most likely to commit crime that is like... Okay. Answer this correctly, chat. What group... What economic group within society? Let's change it a bit, all right? But let's cut to the chase, okay? Poor people are more likely to commit, like... petty crime, violent crime that fucks over another person in society in a very direct, immediate fashion, right? Poor people, okay? Like, obviously, you get white collar crime, but, someone that commits, like I was saying this earlier, someone that commits, there's obviously instances where it's not the case, but if someone commits fraud at a company and they're let out, apart from maybe being a flight risk, right? They're unlikely to commit. They're unlikely to go out and fucking smack someone in the face in the street, are they? Whereas someone that is engaged in little shitty instances of violence or like threats of assault and stuff like that, yeah, the chances are high that they're going to go out and smack someone around the head, which is not what you want to be happening in your city, is it?
And that is that Rikers is an insane place to even fucking exist. And no, a lot of those people are not getting their fucking day in court immediately because the courts are fucking backed up because we have an incredibly draconian criminal justice system.
I think as well, okay, here's another thing I think could bridge the gap, right? Okay. Right? Why not build, I know this is money, whatever. Why not build like a new facility somewhere that's like not like prison, but you put people in there that are like awaiting trial or something like that? Is there not like a place to do that somewhere that's a bit nicer? It's a little bit nicer at least, like nicer facilities. Like a halfway house or something. That's called jail. No, I know, but okay. If the problem, okay, they're saying that Rikers fucking sucks, which probably it does. Okay? Right? Why not have somewhere else where you put someone where it's like, okay, just go in there for a bit and it's a bit nicer while you're waiting to see what happens. Luxury jail. Yeah, build better jails, exactly. Just make it a bit nicer. I don't know. That's I think generally my perception of a lot of this stuff is just make it all a bit nicer. I don't know. It's a bit of a, bleeding heart liberal take. But some of the criminal justice solutions they've got in other countries, whilst not exactly compatible to America, centering around the idea that it's more like make jail great again. Yes. Well, if the budget needs to go up, the budget needs to go up. In fact, wait, I've got it. I fucking got it. Thank you, chat. Great idea. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. This is a great idea. Have jail for people awaiting trial and live stream it all. Live stream it onto Kick and get money off of donos and shit. That's like the kind of thing you see in a movie, isn't it, in the future? Running Man does that. Make the Running Man, but not so violent. Fish Tank Jail Edition. I think that's got some legs. I've got to be honest with you. I know people might think it's ridiculous. I reckon that's got some legs.
That's why you shouldn't commit 3 crimes in a row, because you don't want to go to Rikers.
Okay, that's awesome that you said that, because you think that higher sentences or more aggressive ways of punishing crime is an adequate deterrent strategy when there is not a single piece of paper that you can point to throughout. You just gave that as a reason for deterrence.
No,
it doesn't work.
No, brother,
it doesn't work. It has never worked.
No, hold on. So when a guy commits 3 crimes in a row, I'm not worried about deterrence. I'm worried about getting him the fuck off the street so he stops punching defenseless women in the face while they're trying to get to work. Okay, so I'm going to take him his ass off the street.
This is about protecting women now. I didn't sign up for that. What the fuck?
Street, you've committed enough goddamn crimes when we're going to put you away. And if you want to cry about it, well, sad day for you.
I'm shocked.
You shouldn't have punched a poor lady in the subway 3 freaking different times.
I'm shocked that you do not see, on the one hand, you have sympathy for the other guy who was swept away under the same draconian rules when he
because that guy can't get out of prison for life. The other guy just has to go to trial and prove he didn't do it.
Okay. So the guy that was suspected, because you don't have to actually do a crime to get thrown in Rikers, right? The guy that was suspected,
yes,
in a
and
situation,
that does happen.
In a situation where
much more common occurrence is guys doing crimes over and over and over and over and over.
Okay, no, that's not.
Recidivism is like the #1 problem.
Recidivism,
a tiny amount of criminals create a giant number of crimes. Wait.
I know that.
Oh, we're getting close to some interesting statistics there, aren't we, Cenk? Let's go.
Recidivism doesn't happen specifically on the bail side, though. Recidivism is the sum total of all.
Yeah, I was saying this earlier. The fact that when you get out of prison in America, it's basically like a black mark against you until the end of time. It's insane, particularly when it's for less egregious offenses. Why the fuck does America do that? It makes literally no fucking sense. Why not? Why not? Why? What is the fucking reasoning for that? Is there any good argument for making it so that prisoners, when they come out, are just fucked in the ass from every conceivable angle? Might as well just fucking stamp something on the forehead. What's the argument from the other side? I think it's about Anna. Yeah, it probably is linked to Anna, isn't it? Punishment. But a time in jail is the punishment. Yeah, good. We actually remove felonies in my state after 5 years for all non-violent offenders. Yeah. If it's rape or murder or something like that, I can understand the hesitancy to, treat them like absolute normal members of society, particularly as we don't have a rehabilitative system. But there's a lot of crime you could probably just, get rid of. Even in the UK, if you've ever committed a crime and you try and get a job, it can cause you massive problems, even if it's years ago and it's long resolved.
All people who were incarcerated that get out of prison after serving.
Chud wants rapists to get jobs as kindergartens, is what I heard. Well, as long as I didn't rape a child, yeah. If someone has raped an adult woman, are they more a risk to a child as long as they're not a pedo? I don't think so. Why? They're not into kids. No. If they've raped an adult woman, not a fucking child. Obviously, if you've raped a child, you can never be around kids again in that capacity, ever. It's too much, way too much of a risk. Mums collecting their kids would love it. I lost an opportunity for a research job because I had a criminal record of theft for less than $50 when I was 17. I was 22 when I applied. Ended up having to pay $1,500 to have my record expunged. That's mental. How is that reasonable or fair? Anyway, yeah, I think we can all agree that there's a lot of instances where you can definitely reconsider this felon label, as especially like later on as time goes on as well. It's unfair how people treat criminals. Well, if someone's been in jail and served their time, and they've served good time, and they've been a good prisoner, and they've done their time with grace, that's very different to someone who is like a shitter, isn't it? You fucked up and there's consequences to carry weight. Yeah, but the weight should be relevant to what you've done. If someone's done drugs for personal use and they do their time and come out, I mean, you know, what? Like, no, that shouldn't be an issue.
Their sentence, Cenk. There is a much larger number of people that are serving prison sentences and getting out and then engaging in crime again, rather than like being apprehended for a moment, being detained, and then fucking going out and doing the crime again. That's not recidivism.
You're just talking past reality. You guys are going into the hold on. You guys are going into stores. Guys are harassing people on the streets, etc. And they're walking, brother. They're walking. And that's why they're coming back and doing it again and again and again. If you say that's not happening, you're arguing against reality.
Oh, look, the People's Elbow seems to know what's what with this. There's far too much research demonstrating that implementing cash bail reform leads to new crimes for Hasan to seriously argue that opposition to the idea is based on the anecdote. Yeah, I mean, like I say, this is the only study he seems to be able to pull, which is based on potentially flawed methodology. I don't know what other studies there are. Obviously, you can't just intuit these things, right? But like, you know, if people that commit a violent felony or accused of committing a violent felony multiple times are being released, which does seem to be happening in some cases, that is likely to have like a detrimental impact, right, on crime.
And that's exactly what I'm saying here. You're losing people. You're losing people who are on your side because they go, Us, that's not reality. That's not the reality that I live in. They're locking up all the stuff in the CVS because guys keep coming in and taking it.
That's another really good. See, again, all matter of.
You think that it just all matter? Everybody's making it up. CVS is making it up.
Well, they're not. As a matter of fact, if you look at the actual data coming from the National Retailers Association, they literally talk about shrink, which is not necessarily simply people stealing.
Oh, 36%
of that, the $112 billion number that they point to in terms of total shrink, actually is external theft in the form of organized retail theft, which, by the way, isn't the overwhelming majority of external theft that's happening. It's just a fucking media fantasy. Okay.
How does he? Okay. What is he basing that on? How can he possibly know that? I can't imagine that retailers are able to break down with any sort of meaningful detail what would be considered like. I mean, unless it's changed dramatically since I worked in retail, and yes, it is a different country. You know, it all goes under one banner. I don't think that they're going to be able to go, well, this particular part of the theft was due to X group and Y group and B group, da-da-da-da. Normally it's just, this shit was stolen. This is how much it cost us. And anyway, this whole conversation is so retarded if you know anything about... I mean, I'm a fucking idiot, okay? Bear that in mind. But obviously, I've worked in retail before, and I've got a little bit of insight into how it all kind of works and stuff like that. And yes, it's true that stores and therefore companies at the broader level have budget in and figure out, you know, shrinkage. How much can essentially the store afford to lose via different means? And part of that is via theft. So within store budgets, they've got a calculation of how much they think they're going to lose due to theft, and they take that into account, right? And it's up to store managers to manage that accordingly generally, and they've got to keep a track of it and make sure that they're putting in place steps to limit, you know, excessive theft, right? And it's just obvious if you think about it for more than fucking 5 seconds that any loss to a store to excess could lead to financial difficulty, which could lead to, you know, solutions which are inconvenient to the vast majority of people. For example, those perspex screens that you see put in place, right? Those perspex screens cost money to put in place, to install them, and there's going to be like a level of lost opportunity because customers maybe are not going to make a quick purchase in there. You know, there's going to be loss of because of you know, someone walks in and they're like, oh, I just need to quickly grab something. Oh, it's locked up. Fuck it, I'll go to another store, right? So there's like losses there as well. But the money they save by stopping shoplifting is obviously going to be greater than that thing, even though it's like inconvenient and shitty for the people that shop there, right? And further to that, if shrinkage or the, you know, shoplifting reaches a certain level that goes beyond what they account for and what they budget for, if that's a continuous ongoing issue, eventually it will lead to staff cuts. It will lead to the store inevitably closing. It's just fucking, it's just so obvious. You know, if a store is not making money for whatever reason, if push comes to shove and it reaches a point, they will eventually close the store down. Organized theft has existed for millennia. Yes, it has. And that's why stores have allowances for certain amounts of theft within their budgets. But if that reaches too high a point and it goes beyond what is reasonably, you know, claimed under insurance with an acceptance of an increased premium if they do it that way, or just writing it off as loss completely, if it goes above a certain point, it's going to cause it's going to be of economic detriment to the store, which followed to its conclusion will eventually lead the store to close down. It's just, you know, this is how businesses operate always. If something is making them money, they want to continue to do that thing. If something is not making them money, they do not want to continue to do that thing. And the thing is, people go, well, there's other reasons that stores have issues. Yes, and if they're getting squeezed from, say, 3 different directions, right? And then shoplifting increases, which is yet another squeeze on their bottom line, then that's going to influence their decision as to whether or not they close the store. It's unlikely that shoplifting in and of itself solely will lead a store to go, right, we need to close it because there's too much theft. But it could be that it's on, you know, profitable ground, but they're squeezed in a couple of directions. And then that increases and it's like, okay, we're now reaching a point where the store isn't profitable. Okay, the store is not turning a profit. It's costing us money. It's getting worse. Eventually they'll close it down. Again, you know, I'm going to be talking about this at this debate. So I'm going to need to read up on it, which will be very interesting. I can't wait for that, to get the actual data, facts, figures, whatever it is for these areas. But this idea that corporations are just lying about this is absurd. You know, these stores are publicly traded entities a lot of the time. They can't just lie about stuff. They can't just make stuff up. They can't just concoct fantasies as to why they're having to close stores down. They have to answer to their shareholders. No one gets hurt if a store shuts down. A new one will open up. Well, I'm pretty sure the people that work there are not going to really like that perspective, are they? And if a store does open up, they're going to face the same problems that the store has just closed faced. And if a store does close and it's because of high rates of crime and shoplifting, that's going to act as a disincentive for other stores to want to open up there. They're going to be like, oh, no thank you, we'll give that a miss. Anyway,
Okay,
No,
26.
it's not. We see with our own eyes, Haas.
Dude, do you want me to describe to you what the reality is by giving you empirical evidence, or are we going to talk like you're a reactionary conservative by just, talking about your fifis? Like, this is not...
Fifis? You're crazy, man.
No.
Okay, let me ask you this, chat, to anyone that disagrees with me. Let me ask you this, right? Let's say you own a big company and you're given 2 proposals to open a store. One is in a low crime area, okay? Shoplifting represented a loss of $10,000 in the last economic year, right? Let's not talk about the race. We don't need to talk about that. No need to worry about that, okay? Etc. etc. Basically, a very nice profile of this like low crime store, etc. And then there's another one, and it's like, right, this one here, it's in a redacted neighborhood, okay, for starters. No, but they're like, look, okay, we've got problems here. We have to set up security measures. There'll be more security guards required. Blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, obviously one is going to look more attractive than the other, isn't it? Anyway, I do have rough ideas about this that I need to solidify with some research, as I'm going to be debating these kind of topics next month, which I can't wait. Can't wait to talk about facts and figures with Leo. It's going to be amazing. But on the basic principle of how businesses operate, yeah, it's obvious that if certain losses reach, levels beyond what is manageable within the budget, they're going to end up closing stores.
No. You're literally. Oh my God, you're doing Ben Shapiro.
No, brother, come on. You're telling me that Philadelphia didn't happen? Are you telling me they didn't go into that goddamn store?
No, of course it happened. Do you think that $112 billion of shrink is happening? 36%
always happens.
Okay, exactly.
But now it's worse because they've added this extra layer.
Is it worse?
So is Hasan genuinely saying that stores are lying about the reason for their losses? Which my understanding would be, if found out, a massive legal liability, because you can't lie to shareholders about stuff. Can you? Wait, you can't just make it up, can you? Oh yeah, we lost a bunch of money, all these shoplifters. Anyway, there you go. There's your report. Well, like I say, we will be doing some more research.
It's really interesting because according to the National Retailers Association, that fucking same number that you hear in local media, that actual study shows that shrink has not increased in comparison to former years, and it's actually trailing along at 1% increase.
So all those shops in San Francisco closed because they don't want to make money? Because they wanted to make some political point?
Do you think organized retail theft is capable of stealing $112 billion? Or do you think that
it's not the whole shrink, Haas?
Yeah, exactly. It's literally internal theft in the same way that
has always existed.
Employees stealing.
Wait, is he quoting the overall figure of shrink or shrinkage, we call it in the UK? Like, obviously that isn't going to be entirely shoplifting. No, I can't remember. It's like it's stuff you write off. Like if something's damaged, but obviously stuff can get damaged in transit. You have to write that off. Yeah, as he's saying, internal theft. I can't remember all the things that go into it, but like there's a whole bunch of shit. I think it's basically like any unplanned loss or something like that, I think. Fucking hell. It's been a long time since I've had to think about all this shit.
Which, by the way, totally on board with that. Keep doing that.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Not only that, but also there's inventory mismanagement, things that are damaged in the process. That's a part of shrink as well.
Always.
Shrink across the board has not increased.
Okay, so if he's accepting that this figure constitutes pretty much, a whole broad spectrum of loss, why are we saying, oh, do you think that people could steal $112 billion? Well, we're accepting that it's not $112 billion of just pure theft, is it?
Increased in a dramatic way, according to the national.
Why are they closing down the stores?
Because real estate.
Because you can't make money.
That's insane. They can't make money because of real estate, Cenk. They can't make money because brick and mortar has no basis anymore. There's no way to make money with a fucking Walgreens.
Yeah, I just explained that. I said that there's a multitude of reasons that stores can close. That's true, and it's unlikely that a store it's like, oh, theft has increased 5%. We've got to close. There's like the death of 1,000 cuts angle, which probably over time there can be these issues. And there's probably a multitude of pressures that retail stores are under pressure broadly, particularly from like online marketplace and stuff like that. But if you are getting squeezed from 3 different directions, and then a 4th direction starts squeezing you more, that's going to cause you problems, isn't it? These retail stores, I presume, are on very fucking dicey, you know, economics, you know?
No, that's a much larger factor. It's insane to say that like 3 fucking teenagers or 100 teenagers even are a gang of roving teenagers are able to literally take down the entire retailers in neighborhoods. That's crazy. You know why shrink is actually increased? Self-checkout. That's why shrink is actually increased, because you know what contributes to shrink? That $112 billion number. You know what actually increased?
What is he? Okay. I mean, that's still theft, though, isn't it? That's still theft. That's also shoplifting. I don't know what he's based. I feel like he's got some figure or some information, and he's making all of these claims about it. And I'm like, well, where's the info that says all of this? Yeah, he's saying self-checkout is, I guess, what the reason for these losses as well. Fuck, man. Oh my god. I think he's kind of roughly quoting figures and maybe not accurately representing exactly what's in it. I think that it feels like Cenk is just going, yeah, well, we see it happening all the time. Two retards fighting.
You and everyone else that goes into a fucking Wawa and like steals the Skittles. What do you think is happening more frequently? Roving gangs of people that are able to steal billions of dollars of merchandise, or a sum total of every fucking American doing the same goddamn thing without even thinking about it when they just go into a Wawa and yoink a Skittles at 2 a.m. when they're high as fuck? That's what is actually the shrink.
But Haas, I'm not denying any of the factors that you mentioned. Those are all...
Wait, okay, but then... Well, that's bad as well and needs to be stopped too, if that's causing problems. Wait, does he think that people are like, right, we only need to worry about this type of shoplifting? It gets focused on because it's spicy and stuff like that. But yeah, if that needs to be dealt with too, then that needs to be dealt with too. Also, I don't know if it's every American or whatever that's doing this. Most people will go in and they'll pay for their goods. There's an internal sense of decency. They don't want to fucking steal stuff. Also, so he's saying it's impossible to think that this roving gang of people can steal to this level, but then he's claiming that stoners going into a store stealing a Skittles at 2 a.m. can somehow. That can contribute meaningfully to it. Sense of decency, ad blockers, shared Netflix, Pirate Bay. Yeah, but people don't conceive of intellectual property theft as theft in the same way as going to a store and taking an item. I mean, if you take an item, you know, there's obviously a very clear cost associated with getting that to the store that there isn't really with IP. Not that it justifies IP theft, but it's just we conceptualize that very differently, don't we? Stealing is bad. Yes, stealing is bad. But the problem is we live in a utilitarian age, don't we? We got to show our working. But yeah, I think stealing is it just has this kind of detrimental effect on us all, doesn't it? If everyone's dishonest, go around sneaking what they can.
They're all real factors. But you're denying the one factor that everyone can see with their eyes. So are you saying, so what should we do with those guys who break into those places?
Okay.
Shouldn't we put them in prison right away and make sure?
Do I think that police should stop robberies? Yes, I do.
Thank you.
That is insane. No, that's not a few moment, because the reality that you are dealing with is not like what is actually happening, and it saddens me to see you go along with mainstream media narratives.
How the fuck would Hasan know anything about this? Doesn't he live in fucking Hollywood or something? Doesn't he live in like the nicest part of Los Angeles? What the fuck? And he mixes about with all of his wealthy streamer mates. When was the last time he ever saw a fucking theft? When was the last time he ever was worried about getting fucking raped or robbed? Fuck, you know.
that are inherently reactionary.
It's not, Haas, you're not living in reality. So,
Brother,
okay,
how am I not living? I just gave you empirical evidence. You gave me look around. That is the reality. How is that not any different than what Ben
Haas,
Shapiro does?
First of all, we all see that they walk into the stores, they take the stuff. We all see that the stuff gets locked up. We all see the stores closing down.
This is the problem with this Cenk's approach is like to a normie. It's like, yeah, based. We are seeing it. But if he's going to bring up this bullshit fucking studies that maybe have got problems, like you need to be able to show another study, I guess, if you're doing a debate. Oh, it's all so cringe and gay. Who cares, man? Theft is bad. Theft is bad, okay? Theft is wrong. You shouldn't do it. We're sticking to that.
We all experience it. So finally, can I just get to the anecdote that I was talking about? Because it's instructive, not because it improves definitively anything, but it's instructive for the point I'm trying to make, okay? Which is partly agrees with some of the things that you have said, okay? So we got a guy in the neighborhood. He's carrying around this metal pipe, and he's sharpened the edge, and it looks like a frickin' spear. There, by the way, there was another lady with a machete, and these are real stories. You can catch feelings over, but they're absolutely...
Yeah, it does. It feels like one of those situations where if you're having like a conversation with your mates, and you were talking about, oh God, this stuff's getting bad, isn't it? Stealing from shops is these criminals walking in, stealing en masse, terrible business. It would just be a agreed upon concept, but only on the internet do you have to like justify this idea that watching these videos of people walking in, it's almost like some sort of rhetorical or intellectual trap in a way, isn't it? Where it's like you could show someone a video of a bunch of people going and stealing, you know, a bunch of fucking detergent to sell on the black market, right? And it's clear as day, there it is, a bunch of hoodlums charging in, stealing a bunch of detergent. And you show it to a lefty and go, that's bad, isn't it? That's bad. This could have an impact on stores closing. In fact, they say that it is. And they go, well, hang on a minute. We need to look at the studies, actually. And we need to, and it's all this kind of obfuscation and trying to get around the fact that they don't want to say that stealing is bad or shoplifting is bad because they don't want it to seem like they're on the side of the corporations. Yeah, it's like some weird little intellectual rhetorical trap that they're trying to get you in to try and like bring out endless studies or information to show why that sort of behavior is not only, because the thing is, it doesn't even have to be an economic argument, even, does it really? You don't have to be able to say, oh, I can prove that stealing from corporations is bad. Put that to one side. What about like the way that sort of behavior has a negative detriment on society and the justification or apologia for it is bad for like broader societal health? It's almost like there's no discussion or concept or conversation about that. It's just, oh, what about the facts and figures and the studies and all these retailers are lying? What about the soul of our society? Like that never seems to really come into the conversation. And to me, even if it's not like hard data, there's still a conversation to be had there about how, this kind of complete rejection, this visible, obvious rejection of basic principles of our society, is wrong. We shouldn't be permissive of it at all, even if you want to build something better. Okay, that's an interesting angle. Actually, I hadn't thought of it like that before. Like the leftoids want you to bring all these studies to show why a bunch of blacks running into a store stealing detergent to sell on the black market is bad. Wait, what? It just says bad. It's easy.
Absolutely real. And by the way, the lady with the machete, nobody did anything about her because the cops say, oh, no, we don't see the machete. And that's the cops not doing their job, right?
I agree, yeah.
But at the same time, they go, we take her in. She comes right back.
What did he say?
Can I just get to the anecdote that I was talking about? Because it's instructive, because it improves definitively anything, but it's instructive for the point I'm trying to make, okay? Which is partly agrees with some of the things that you have said, okay? So we got a guy in the neighborhood. He's carrying around this metal pipe, and he's sharpened the edge, and it looks like a frickin' spear. There, by the way, there was another lady with a machete, and these are real stories. You can catch feelings over, but they're absolutely real. And by the way, the lady with the machete, nobody did anything about her because the cops say, oh, no, we don't see the machete. And that's the cops not doing their job, right?
I agree, yeah.
But at the same time, they go, we take her in. She comes right back out. Okay, so at some point, she finally grabbed a mom and a kid. So finally, they took her away. She comes back 48 hours later. Okay, fine. But now, the guy with the spear is yelling the N-word 24/7 on the corner of the block. So I have a biracial neighbor. She comes out, and he sees her, and he starts calling her the N-word. And he's got a goddamn weapon, right? And then cops come out eventually,
Also,
begrudgingly.
actually, that's another angle as well to think about with this. That it's the violence too. It's the violent conduct of some of these thieves, and the answer is like, oh, just don't approach them, don't go after them. But if someone is running in to steal a bunch of stuff and is negating that kind of aspect of our civil society, which we agree we're not going to break, who the fuck knows what else they might do? Like, should store workers be subjected to people charging into the store and stealing a bunch of shit?
Right?
Probably not. No.
And the cops say, no, we're not going to do it. He puts away the spear. The other lady takes it away. And the cops go, no, we're not going to do anything about it. And they say, why? My neighbor asks, why? 2 reasons. One, we bring them in and they get released. You want me to bring them in? He's going to be back out here in a couple of hours. Okay?
Earlier you said you don't believe cops, and now you're saying you believe cops.
Let me finish the story. And then as they're leaving, they then say,
God, could you imagine calling yourself total capitalism death? That has got to be the cringiest shit I could possibly imagine. That is the biggest soy virtue signal bullshit I've ever seen. Yeah, man, it's dying. It's over. It's going to be over any day now.
If you care about this,
Idiot.
You should care about how you vote. So that's the cops saying, I'm not going to do my goddamn job unless you vote Republican, unless you can let me kick people's ass for a living. I don't like solving crime. I like kicking ass and when I have an overwhelming advantage, right? So is that real? Yes, it's real. But it is also real, Haas, that when they bring them in, they let them out. And so what happened with the lady with the machete? She's back out in 48 hours.
Thank you for bringing this up because it made me more angry at the cops.
That's my point. Both things are true, Haas.
Okay,
cops
got
aren't doing their jobs. And if I was in New York City police, if I was Bill de Blasio back in the day, I don't know if you remember, the cops turned their backs on him in some press conference when he was doing like a mild critique of cops or something.
Yeah, I remember. They run the show over there, the Sergeant Benevolent Association.
Yeah,
you know what I would do? They dox his child.
Yeah, you know what I would have done? I would have been like, you're fired and you're fired. Go ahead and sue me, okay? And police chief, you're fucking fired. And if you don't do your goddamn job, you're all going to get fired.
Okay.
Go ahead and sue me. Okay?
Can we before
so both are factors.
Okay, can we get back to the major difference of agreement that we had, because like you were
Okay. Wait. So I don't know anything about this. I'm just going to base it purely on what was just said. So Bill de Blasio was more of a liberal mayor, and I guess there was criticisms over his like anti-police shit that he did. Is that what happened? And this new mayor apparently has been taken on because of how shit the crime has got. Is that what's going on there? Is that the right-wing narrative, at least? I can't imagine how aggravating it is to be an average cop and hear some rich nepotistic extremists say the cops aren't doing their job. Yeah, for sure. You don't have to say you don't know anything about this. It's already assumed. Well, see you later.
You were doing the anecdote thing while I was trying to show you something that is objectively true. Walgreens, when they closed down their shops in certain areas, they said it was crime. Crime was the reason, right? I at the time said that's fucking bullshit. And it didn't matter because everyone was doing the same thing that you're doing. Look around. Crime is happening everywhere, right? Except Walgreens now openly states a year after the fact, oh yeah, I guess the CFO came out and said, the chief financial officer said that maybe we cried too much last year over theft.
My concern here is we're relying solely on like he's saying, look around. These are like sole articles. What is the actual fucking information and what does the data actually say about this?
So the question at this point is, why did they do that?
Like, this interpretation could be... what I'm trying to get at here, this interpretation in this headline, we're literally basing it solely off the fucking headline.
Do you have an idea why they said crime was the reason why they were closing their shops?
So, look, you're taking Walgreens as one example, and there's a lot of different companies that react in different ways, and there are a number of factors. So if Walgreens admits that they overstated the crime, there was a real reason why they closed their shops. I agree. So in that case, one of the other factors is probably larger, right?
Yeah. So what is the reason?
Like Hasan's whole thing here, from the start of this whole discussion, just seems to be cherry picking whatever he can possibly find that backs up his argument from some study, which even just reading the abstract of it seems to be creating a fictional control method with which to compare crime rates. Like they accept that crime rates have gone up following the bail reform, but are saying that it's negligible based on some, nebulous hypothetical comparison they've done. Yeah, I don't know. It just troubles me that it seems like he's just cherry picking stuff. What's this? National Retail Federation. Organised retail crime is a burgeoning threat within the retail industry. NRF. Bear in mind, this is what? National Retail Federation. So this is like are they like a lobby group or something? So it seems like this report is differentiating retail shrink, and they're talking about organized retail crime being an issue they're trying to contend with. Violence is a growing area of concern.
You make about real estate is actually a perfectly good point.
So you think it was Amazon?
Also one of the factors.
Okay, so you think it was like same-day delivery, Amazon, e-commerce dominating?
That's complicated too, because that's a contributing factor, but COVID made a giant difference because people were not actually physically going into the stores.
True. So that's good. So you recognize all of that. Okay. So if even one of these executives that was leading the fucking charge openly admits that they were lying a year prior.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the problem is Cenk is being so the issue here is Cenk is being too broad, right? Cenk's being too broad, and it's allowing Hasan to dance around, these articles which are speaking like broadly about the issue. There's probably individual instances which you could talk about and you could look at, and the trick would obviously be to say, okay, Hasan, there's this example here of a store. Here's the details of it. Here's the situation. It's saying it's closed for X, Y, and Z reason. Like, what do you think of that? That's bad, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But Cenk is being too broad and talking about it way too, on a sort of national scale. When obviously it's not necessarily like a national issue, like across the entirety of America. There's obviously a broad different spectrum of issues that retailers are going to face. But there probably are going to be specific problem areas and issues that you could point to talk about more specifically.
And the National Retailers Association that puts out those numbers on shrink is openly admitting that the increase in shrink is actually perfectly in line with the increase in retail shopping, and it's totally normal.
Because he's kind of hiding behind the very broad conversation to get around the fact that he doesn't have to actually look at something and go, yes, that's a store that closed to shoplifting. That's bad. That shouldn't be incentivized,
And you, as a smart person, values empirical evidence over personal anecdotes, should, in that situation, do what?
So, Haas, look, if you want, next time I'll come with a book of statistics for you. But are you saying that in Portland, that the good progressives in Portland were full of shit and they panicked and they got rid of their progressive legislators
there we go.
And got tougher on crime because it was just all a mirage and they bought into the mirage? No, Haas. See the crime, you see the numbers going up in select cities, you see it sometimes affecting some retailers.
See, look, he is literally just cherry picking
so it is a conflict.
Articles that are reporting on the same comments to present this image or look at what these articles are saying. Yes, it's reporting on the same comment from the Walgreens executives.
of factors, but if you think that actual crime is not one of the factors, go ask the good people of Portland, go ask the good people of Seattle, who are all overwhelmingly progressive. And they're saying, we've had enough of this shit. Will you, for God's sake, when someone commits a crime, put them in goddamn jail?
Okay. I don't know what to tell you because, like, I'm. You can come back with more statistics, which I think if you are.
So yeah, there's got to be a name for this, man. There's got to be a name for this style of it's like a debate trickery, where you're so rooted in statistics, and it's like the only thing that can possibly be discussed or looked at is statistics. No, it's not retardation, is it? It's like quite a smart move because it makes it look like Cenk hasn't got any grounding or any fucking leg to stand on, where he probably does have some point to make and probably could have a discussion about something specific but can't quite grasp it. But Hasan is just sticking purely in statistics. You need to statistically prove to me why shoplifting is wrong and we shouldn't encourage it or do it, right? There's got to be some like strategy there that's being employed.
A media person with a profound amount of influence, 5 billion views a month, like you said.
No, a year.
Or 5 billion views
nice
a year,
month.
okay? You should probably have those statistics because those statistics should have been guiding your.
So you think the people
point
in
of
Portland
view.
and Seattle just totally got played? There was no crime. The
I'm not saying that
situation wasn't out of control.
I'm
in
not
those
saying that
cities.
there is no crime. I've never said that there's
Like, would Hasan make this argument? Let's say there was like a broad statistic across the entirety of America, like, I don't know, police shootings or something like that. Like if police shootings broadly in America were getting better, but there were like problem areas that you wanted to talk about, would he accept someone going, well, statistically, police shootings in America have gone down, so the problem's getting better? But then there's certain areas, say, where it's gotten a lot worse. Do you see what I mean? It's like you can play this game where you just dance around it by just talking about the pure statistics. And obviously, Cenk doesn't know about the nitty gritty. And I don't know about the nitty gritty either. You know, I don't know what exact examples there are. I just vaguely recall some sort of like there's I think it's a Target recently have closed stores. And I think that Target are using the same kind of excuse. And there's the argument, well, no, Target are doing the same things that Walgreens did.
no
okay,
crime.
but then it was overhyped.
Crime is
and they threw out their progressive legislators
crime is a
because they were wrong.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that because in San Francisco, Chesapeake was recalled, right?
Right.
Because he's like woke George Soros back DA, and yet it's not like they got a handle on crime after.
Well,
that.
it's actually good to I'm covering this from this debate because I don't know how it's going to go. This Leo guy seems like a fucking stats nerd. And obviously, as funny as it would be to go, the blacks are stealing en masse. Shut the fuck up, nerd. I don't know if that's what I want to do. I've seen enough Twitter videos to know what's going on, okay?
Because it's about the laws, it's not about one individual. So that's why I'm focusing on too many misdemeanors that should be felonies, and we got to put a cap on no cash bail. I'm giving you very specific, reasonable amendments of what we need to do to have a fair prison system and a fair criminal justice system that does not over-imprison people and that does not under-imprison people, so that you protect everyone. And
there's
have justice for
no.
all.
Come on, you can't say that there's a problem with under imprisoning people in America, right?
Well, these days, unfortunately, in some cities there are because of these laws that we
in
passed.
some cities. What cities? Point to a single city where there's an under imprisonment issue
For the last 3 to 5 years,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Portland, Seattle, San Francisco.
Okay. San Francisco or in the California in its entirety, okay? Because San Francisco is like, what do you point to with San Francisco's under policing? Like the classic grand larceny restrictions have been limited, right? So why did it happen in the last year or so when that's been in place as a law for, 10 fucking years almost?
That's because they started watching the local news and going, oh, we can do this and there's no consequences. Let's just all go steal shit
Okay.
because nobody's getting arrested.
I wonder if the issue is that there isn't like specific data for shoplifting in particular, so you can't really show through crime rates that shoplifting is increasing. Did police departments differentiate between shoplifting and other forms of theft?
Okay, got it. But we already established that retail theft has not actually increased according to the retail association. So where is that happening? That is outside of the bounds of reason.
So look, you're coming at, so, all right, Hus, you win. And next time I will come with credible stats about crime because you're obsessed with proving that our eyes are lying to us and that the stats are perfectly lovely. There's no extra crime. There's no extra retail
this is really
theft.
important. This is really important.
We're all making it up.
This is the same
conversation.
Cenk, this is the same conversation that I had in some respects with Andrew Tate, right? No, I'm serious. Anecdotes have a tendency to misguide us because, of course, when you see something happening right in front of your eyes, you have a tendency to think this is happening infinitely more frequently, which is why we rely on empirical evidence, right? That is,
they're letting people go. That's a fact. That's
it's funny, isn't it? Just watching this is just how removed from like Normieville this stats-based shit is. He's so obsessed with this idea that, well, we've got to prove with stats that stealing's bad before I say it's bad and we should decry it. Because the thing is, like, yes, it's correct that, like, you can't just look at Twitter and look at the theft and, you know. And there's undoubtedly examples where stores have closed because of, you know, affected by shoplifting. But because Cenk can't bring that to the table, Hasan, you know, essentially is winning because he's just super focused on this idea that, you know, he's put up a few articles, he's got that other study about the criminal justice reform thing.
Okay, but one part of that...
The lady has a machete. She's back on the corner in 48 hours.
I understand.
You're denying people's reality, and you're driving them crazy, and you're making them go, I'm not going to vote for that person or anyone associated with that guy under penalty of law. I am not going to let my kids get kidnapped by a machete lady because Haas has some stats about Walgreens.
No, you're mixing and matching two different things when we're talking about it. You're saying crime across the board, specifically in retail stores, is happening, and it's happening at levels that previously were unheard of or unseen.
You're obsessed with the retail stores. I'm telling you
that's one aspect of it. As far as the criminal mishandling of the personal situation that you're talking about, I'm right there with you. It is unimaginably cruel that police have this fucking stranglehold on the neck of Americans where they just go, sorry, I'm not going to do my fucking job. That requires swift justice in the sense that these cops that misbehave in this way, that get paid $300,000 a year with overtime pay that they fucking did, all to just...
What cop is getting paid $300,000 a year? Huh? What? What police officers getting paid that much money? I'd love to know. Listen, we'll talk about stats and figures. Which county and state and whatever is that in? That sounds absolutely fucking ludicrous. I mean, yeah, this just makes me feel like Hasan is absolutely cherry picking. Because if you type in real retail theft US, there's loads of articles from mainstream press org, some of the same ones that he's been showing. You know, even like CNN talking about retail theft increasing. Yeah, I've got the feeling that Hasan is finding the articles that back him up and just showing those. Well, I will be looking into it more. It's a bit dry for stream. That's the only problem. Maybe we'll find a day to do it later in October.
Just sit around in a fucking parking lot and jerk off all day and look at their fucking laptops and drive around and drive over fucking red lights with their lights off every goddamn day for no fucking particular reason. Those pieces of shit need to learn to do their goddamn jobs.
If you
One
think
of
that's
that
the
is
only
being
factor, you're wrong.
How is that not the most
Are they
significant
letting
factor?
them go or are they not letting them go?
They're letting them go and then telling you they're letting them go because, sorry, there's nothing we can do because
They're
these
not letting
woke
them go.
DAs
The
are
prosecutors
going
letting them go, Haas. The prosecutors are letting them go. And then the cops are not doing their job. It's a double whammy. Okay? So are you saying the prosecutors
it just feels like a lot of lefties have got such a wild conception of what like a day-to-day police officer's job is like. Literally on the prowl, hunting down blacks to murder.
change anything about cash?
Anyway, what we're covering
haven't
next,
changed
I'm getting
anything
bored
about
of this now.
misdemeanors versus felonies.
Do you think-
and that it's just magically
Do
happening?
you think prosecutors are just like, we love that fucking... Do you think that in the United States of America, under this criminal justice system, okay, do you think that prosecutors are going, we love crime, let's fucking
That's not
let
what
these
it's
people
about.
go? So what is
No.
it about then?
So when a law changes and a prosecutor says, "Hey, brother, this used to be a felony, but now it's a misdemeanor," now I got nowhere to plead, so I plead him out to nothing, and he's walking because I can't try all these cases. I can only try about 2% of these cases.
Okay.
So I have to do pleas. I have to do pleas. So when you call something,
By
a
the way,
misdemeanor-
People's Elbow, you were linking stuff earlier about the bail justice reform thing? What was it you were linking? Is that other stuff that shows the opposite to what Sam was saying earlier?
I'm gonna let that dude walk 9 out of 10 times. Okay. So all I'm saying, Haas, is a slight change where we go, those crimes should not be misdemeanors, they should be felonies. And we
Okay.
go one by one, and I bet you we get overwhelming agreement, right? And the other slight changes, hey, somebody commits a crime once, don't make them do a cash bail. That's not fair to poor people, middle class people, etc. But somebody does, in my opinion, 2, you can say 8, whatever the number is, and we could argue over the number. But if they do 2 crimes back to back, no, then
Okay.
then you've got to stay in jail and you've got to pay bail. That's it.
Okay. I don't agree with your solutions because the issue, the problem here is that, and the reason why I went back to retail theft is because it's the one that like everyone fucking constantly talks about, is that when you're talking about like violently threatening someone with a fucking weapon, okay, that's not a misdemeanor. Like
In a lot of places, it is.
no, it's not.
All right.
Okay.
The idea that DAs let criminals go based on ideological grounds is ludicrous. Yeah, but you're thinking of it in terms of like a DA is like, oh, I am a progressive woke DA and I'm going to let this person go because I'm woke and I think they're innocent or something, right? But there can be an impact on a city government, which is as a result of progressives getting into office that can have an effect on, the institutions of that government, right? Like, obviously, if Labour got elected in the UK tomorrow, there'd be more progressive concepts and ideals coming through from various institutions, right? What was this? Yolo County, posted bail versus zero bail analysis. God, all this fucking shit, man. Is it gay or not gay? Individuals released on zero bail were subsequently rearrested for a total of 163% more crimes than individuals released on bail. Arrested individuals released on zero bail reoffended at an average rate that was 70% higher than arrestees who posted bail. The thing is, you don't just want to go, oh yeah, well this one's correct, because I've barely looked at it. God, this study shit's so boring, isn't it? Fuck me. Ugh. Here we go. Perfect. George Soros is funding it. Perfect. That's the cut. Now we're talking. That's what I wanted to see. That's much better. That's more like it. Now we're talking. Billionaire financier George Soros has spent millions of dollars funding the campaigns of woke district attorneys who have let criminals run amok with no prosecution in many American cities. Now we're talking. Yeah, George says the Jews. Let's go. Anyway, right. What else have we got? Let's have a look at this JF Gary Epi shit. That was fun to watch, but I don't know, man. I do not want to fucking get into all that shit with matey boy Leo. But I will look into it. Maybe I'll do a stream later this month and we'll dig into some of the facts and figures about it all, see what we can figure out.